Marvel, Fishing in the Skies. Starting with the Ghost Swordsman Legacy. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 226. After all, Kinlawo always responded to Spider-Man's requests for food, in addition to his exercises, so Spider-Man didn't worry about not being able to fulfill his promise to Venom. Venom began to attach to Spider-Man's body. Soon, Spider-Man's classic red and blue suit turned into Venom's black suit. The whole person's momentum changed greatly. His eyes became slightly sharper. However, Venom did not actively affect Spider-Man this time, so the change in personality was not very big. Seeing the changes in Spider-Man, Tony became a little nervous. The scene of Spider-Man brutalizing the Green Goblin at that time was still unforgettable to him, even though he knew that the Venom in Spider-Man had been subdued by Kinlawo. Don't worry, Mr. Tony. With the help of Venom, I will definitely be able to find that god smoothly, and I will never be hurt. Spider-Man looked at Tony confidently and said. Tony was slightly relieved to see that Spider-Man had not changed as last time, but Spider-Man's words made him silent again. To be honest, he really didn't want Spider-Man to help. After all, in his opinion, Spider-Man was the one he should protect. But now, everything has changed. But for the sake of the overall situation, Tony still gritted his teeth and agreed to Spider-Man's suggestion. After all, he really couldn't find any way out of the situation for a while. Controlling the fall of the armor, countless Lokis surrounded him in an instant, punching and kicking the protective shield. Some even started to bite it directly. Even with broken teeth and blood dripping from their mouths, they didn't mean to give up. The protective shield suddenly expanded at this time, directly pushing out the people around. It directly cleared the Loki within a range of 3 or 4 meters around. However, at this moment, a gap suddenly opened above the protective shield. Venom Spider-Man rushed out of the protective shield at a very fast speed. Under the cover of darkness, Spider-Man's figure was almost invisible. Boom. Whoosh. However, at this moment, an energy beam and a blue arrow shot accurately at Spider-Man. Hawkeye and Loki were the ones who took action. When they saw Tony falling, they knew that the other party would definitely make some moves. They had secretly aimed at him long ago. Unfortunately, they underestimated Spider-Man's reaction speed, especially with the addition of Venom. Spider-Man's reaction reached a new level. Spider-Man's body twisted in the air and dodged 2 attacks. Then he nimbly rushed towards Loki, who had been locked on. Seeing Spider-Man approaching quickly, Loki thought to himself that it was not good. He knew that he was very likely to be discovered by this human, although he didn't know how he was discovered. But the most important thing now was to hide his true body. Unfortunately, Loki's speed was still a little slower than that of Venom's Spider-Man. In less than half a minute, Spider-Man had already jumped above Loki, and with a flip of his wrist, the black spider silk accurately shot at Loki's body. TVB Novel Network. Swish, swish, swish. Seeing Loki being attacked, Hawkeye immediately became a little anxious, and arrows kept shooting at Spider-Man. It was like he didn't need any money. However, Tony immediately stood behind Spider-Man. Almost all the arrows were intercepted in midair. Even those that could not be intercepted were blocked by the protective shield. Father, always the strongest backing. Spider-Man is already familiar with tying people up like dumplings. Soon Loki fell to the ground. However, just as Spider-Man wiped the sweat from his forehead and was about to talk, he suddenly found Loki tied up like a dumpling under his feet, and a wicked smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Then a sense of danger came from behind Spider-Man. This feeling was very weak, but it was pure. There is danger. Damn, get out of here. Venom also felt the danger coming at this time and immediately warned. Spider-Man hardly thought about anything, and did a backflip completely on instinct. Loki, who was about to attack from behind, suddenly missed. Under the guidance of inertia, his body staggered forward 2 steps involuntarily. However, at this moment, Spider-Man in midair fired Spider Silk again. This is to say that Loki has been completely tied up like a dumpling. The moment Loki was controlled, the spell immediately lost its effect. Countless clones dissipated, and at the same time, those who were controlled also returned to their original appearance, but the appearance was more miserable than the other. They were all bloody, as if they were blood gourds, especially the fists. Almost no one's fists were intact. Basically, they were rotten. Seeing the strangeness of the people around him, Spider-Man suddenly felt angry. Under the influence of the venom, the anger in his heart became even greater. Of course, this was not the intentional effect of the venom, but just a small side effect after the venom was possessed. Spider-Man grabbed the Mind Scepter in Loki's hand and prepared to take it away, then he broke it fiercely. If it weren't for this weird scepter, the rest of the people would not have become like this. As for the problem about Loki's scepter that Kinlawo had said, Spider-Man had thrown it all behind his head. Seeing this, Loki's angry expression on his face instantly turned into surprise. If he could control Spider-Man, it would definitely be a big help for Loki. Even though he was unwilling to admit it, Loki knew it in his heart. This strange human in front of him was definitely stronger than himself. If it weren't for the gem, he would never be his opponent. Human, become my slave. Chapter 251, Imprinted Protection. Soul roaring. The moment Spider-Man grabbed the Mind Scepter, Loki shouted with a howl. Spider-Man was immediately frightened and subconsciously wanted to let go of the scepter. As a result, he unexpectedly found that his palm could not get out of the scepter. The blue gem on the scepter emitted a blue glow, which wrapped around his palm and spread towards the center of Spider-Man's eyebrows. The speed was quite fast. Not only Spider-Man, but also Venom was affected. Venom wanted to get out of Spider-Man's body at this time, but found that he could not get out of it. The two of them really seemed to be fused together at this moment. Loki looked at Spider-Man struggling desperately but unable to break free. His signature evil smile suddenly appeared on his face. It's useless, just be my slave, ha ha ha. Gah! Loki was laughing excitedly. Suddenly, he was stunned. He looked at Spider-Man in disbelief. His mouth opened wide, as if he had seen something incredible. The blue energy of the Mind Scepter suddenly stopped when it touched Spider-Man's brow. Then a unique rune mark appeared on Spider-Man's brow. It emitted a faint light, expelling all the blue energy, so that it could not touch Spider-Man's brow at all. If Tony saw the mark on Spider-Man's brow at this time, he would find that the mark on Spider-Man's brow at this time was so similar to the wave mark released by Kinlawo at the beginning. It can't even be said to be similar. It's exactly the same. This is the wave power that Kinlawo left on them. The purpose is to prevent Spider-Man and others from being controlled. Chapter 227, Mr. Stark, is this the vanguard of the invasion of the Earth? Why does it feel so weak? Spider-Man looked at Tony beside him and asked. Tony couldn't help but twitch his mouth when he heard this, and he really didn't know what to say. So weak? He almost capsized in the gutter just now. But it was indeed a little weaker than he imagined. It even felt a little worse than the man-made cruel things of the big boss. Spider-Man's voice was not small, and almost all the extraordinary people present could hear it clearly. Loki was no exception. This guy's face almost turned green. He glared at Spider-Man fiercely and cursed. I am a god, you humble mortal. Spider-Man was frightened by Loki's ferocious look, and his voice suddenly weakened a little. God, such a weak god. As soon as these words came out, Tony couldn't help but tremble a few times at the corners of his mouth, and then his shoulders trembled. The people of S.H.I.E.L.D. hiding in the dark couldn't help laughing. Only Dr. Banner was a little wrong, and the Hulk in his body had some reaction. Hulk always felt empty inside, as if something had been taken away by someone. The point was that he didn't know what it was yet. This feeling made him feel very irritated. However, with Banner's suppression, Hulk couldn't show up for a while. Damn human, you will pay for your words, Loki said as he made a gesture with one hand, and then the whole square was filled with Loki's fandom, and those who were controlled by him with the Mind Stone also turned into his appearance at this time. Kill these two blasphemous humans. Countless Lokis raised their hands at the same time, and the repetitive voice made people feel numb. Those who were controlled by the Mind Stone showed ferocious faces and rushed towards Spider-Man and Tony. Many of them even took out guns directly. These were the agents that S.H.I.E.L.D. arranged in advance after detecting Loki's actions. Unfortunately, before these agents could play a role, Loki's group control made S.H.I.E.L.D.'s plan fail. Damn it, Tony couldn't help but curse inwardly when he saw this. and for a moment he felt that he was afraid to use his weapon. He grabbed Spider-Man with one hand, and the thrusters flew straight into the air. The shield also opened at this moment, blocking the bullets fired by the controlled agents. Sparks continued to appear outside the shield. These bullets alone could not do anything to Tony's shield. However, at this moment, boom! Suddenly there was a loud noise, and Tony in the shield only felt a strong force coming, and then the whole person flew backwards more than 10 meters in the air. Kenkin barely used the thrusters to stabilize his body when he hit the building. There was an obvious crack outside the shield. If the previous attack was a little stronger, the shield would have been pierced. It goes without saying that such an attack must have been caused by Loki's little yin coin. Jarvis increased the power of the shield. Tony didn't dare to be careless anymore, and immediately ordered Jarvis to increase the protective ability of the shield. "Okay, sir." As Jarvis responded, Tony's light blue protective shield turned dark blue. Now the bullets fell on him without even a spark, and were shattered cleanly. Loki, who was hiding among countless phantoms in the crowd, saw the protective shield around Tony and his eyes condensed slightly. Inexplicably, he always felt that the power emitted by this human hidden in the armor was so familiar. Why did he feel a sense of the energy of the cosmic cube? But if you feel it carefully, there are many differences. Could it be that humans have successfully copied the energy of the cosmic cube? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. From the magic cube weapon used by Hawkeye, it can be seen that the current human's use of the magic cube is extremely rough, not to mention any copying. Shaking his head, Loki simply stopped thinking about it when he couldn't figure it out, raised the mind scepter, and increased his strength again. Then a beam of energy gushed out and rushed straight to Tony in the sky. It must be said that when Loki released the energy beam, the scene was very spectacular. The countless beams of light blasted out, as if they were going to blast Tony into pieces. Fortunately, there was only one beam that was really powerful. Tony's shield could still withstand it for the time being. He was blasted back several meters again. Tony frowned and thought about how to break the situation. If there were no innocent people below, everything would be fine. Here comes the small missile. It can directly eliminate all the clones below. If you are lucky, Loki's body may also be attacked. But now it is different. Looking around, there are all Lokis below, as if they are surrounded. It is impossible to tell which one is real and which one is fake, and even the one who is being held hostage cannot be distinguished. Jarvis is also powerless. This feeling really gives Tony a headache. He can still hold on for a short time, but the energy of his arc reactor is not infinite. Over time, if his energy is exhausted, it will be a big trouble. Just as Tony was struggling, the little spider he brought into the air was constantly scanning those Lokis. With the help of spider sense and the observation hockey he just realized, Spider-Man felt completely different when looking at these clones. As his gaze settled, he finally looked at the 762nd Loki from the left. In an instant, Spider-Man understood something in his heart. He knew he had found it. That's it. The 726th is the real one. Mr. Stark, I found his real one. Let me get down. Pull him out, Spider-Man said with a little excitement. Tony lowered his head slightly after hearing this, and there was a little surprise on his masked face, but he didn't doubt Spider-Man's words. Peter was shocked. He still knew Spider-Man's ultimate move, but in this situation, it would be too dangerous to let Spider-Man go. Chapter 250 Venom Spider-Man Defeat the enemy with stir. Spider-Man now knows Tony quite well. Naturally, he knows what Tony's silence at this time means. Venom, help me. This time you will work with me. Spider-Man secretly communicated with Venom in his heart. Why? I don't want to help you. There's no benefit. I've had enough of helping you with your homework. Now I have to help you fight. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Venom roared in resistance, and the resentment that was rising to the sky seemed to be rushing out of Spider-Man's body. Help me. How about I ask Brother Keene to make barbecue for you? Barbecue. Venom's eyes widened when he heard Spider-Man's words, thinking back to when he tasted the barbecue made by Keene with the help of Spider-Man's light. The fragrance almost made him swallow his tongue. He didn't fall asleep for 2 days and 2 nights, and all he could think about was the taste of barbecue. 2 meals. At least 2 meals. Otherwise forget it. Deal. Spider-Man agreed without hesitation. Chapter 228. Gian gritted his teeth and finally made up his mind to take action, otherwise, the Silver Surfer would be finished. You know, the Silver Surfer now does not have the blessing of the cosmic surfboard. The immortal attribute has also disappeared. If he is seriously injured, he will really die. Father, help! Chapter 248. Devourer is defeated and the ultimate move shows its power. 10 minutes ago. In the mirror space, Ancient One looked at Galactus. A bit of a smile appeared on his calm face. It seemed to be saying, "We are all foxes who have lived for thousands of years. What are you playing with me?" Ancient One gently stroked his filled forehead. "Thank you for the gift from Galactus. I will use this cosmic energy well." At this moment, Galactus finally understood Dormammu's distress. This feeling of stealing chickens and losing rice is really uncomfortable. Originally, when he filled the blockade for Ancient One, the cosmic energy contained a trace of his will. If everything goes well, I'm afraid that Ancient One, the Supreme Sorcerer, will soon become the second general under Galactus. It's a pity that his little thoughts were completely within Ancient One's expectations. Although Ancient One knew that Galactus helped him because of that existence, but this does not mean that Galactus will not have his own little thoughts. Ancient One will naturally be wary of the other party's little thoughts, especially when it comes to matters related to the soul. Ancient One is even more careful. So the moment Galactus's will merged into the cosmic energy, Ancient One had already noticed it. It was just that the situation was special at the time, so she did not interrupt it. However, the magic secret energy is always ready. At the moment Galactus completed the filling, Ancient One immediately mobilized his own power to cut off the power of Galactus' will on the soul mark. This caused the mark to dim for a moment, but the remaining cosmic energy is also considerable, and with this mark, Ancient One can completely absorb the cosmic energy for his own use. Just this point alone, the loss of the dark mark is not a big deal. Ancient One definitely made a fortune. Supreme Sorcerer, I underestimated you. It seems that your use of soul is no worse than the power of space. What, are you going to use my power against me now? Galactus bit his back teeth and said to Ancient One with a fake smile. I dare not. After all, you are my benefactor, Ancient One said, and bowed solemnly to Galactus. Don't give me that. You and I both know that all this is just to prevent that. Just when Galactus was about to say something in a rage, his face suddenly froze. With a look of disbelief on his face, he muttered to himself, what a sharp power. Damn, it can actually cut off the connection between the space surfboard and the Silver Surfer, and even cut off the power I left behind. This kind of power is definitely not something that Odin can master, nor is it the power of Dormammu and Mephisto. Could it be that human? Impossible. Even if that human has similar power, that little power alone can never cut off the power I left behind. Could it be that he is coming? The face of the Devourer of Planets became uglier and uglier. He didn't know that Kinlawo only showed all the power of Devil May Cry and Berserker at that time. Regarding the power blessing of Shushan's swordsmanship and sword soul, at best it is the addition of buff. Under the cover of blood and ghost energy, the unique sharp breath of sword energy seems so small. Even if he performed the 10,000 swords art a little bit, it still did not attract the attention of the Devourer of Planets. In addition, the main focus of the Devourer of Planets is the Ancient One. So in his impression, the extreme sharp power in Kinlawo's body only remained to the extent that there was something, but not much. Guyi naturally knew what the Devourer of Planets was worried about at this time. She couldn't help but feel a little funny in her heart. Although no one knew, she was very clear about Kinlawo's power. Whether it was the sword intent that burst out when fighting against the incarnation of Mephisto, or the vision caused by Kinlawo's breakthrough in the realm of Sword Saint, she remembered it vividly. Although she knew what was going on, Guyi had no intention of explaining it to the Devourer of Planets. There was no need to explain anything. Anyway, her main task now was to delay the Devourer of Planets. Now let the Devourer of Planets misunderstand perfectly and fall into thinking, why not? However, when the Devourer of Planets was in doubt, suddenly, The cosmic energy core in the body trembled. The cry of Ganata came to his ears. "Father, help!" This was a breath of Ganata that he left in the core. It was so that when his daughter was in danger and called for help, he could feel it at the first time. "Damn it, that guy is here!" Galactus cursed. His eyes turned red. The energy in his body was raging. He exuded an unprecedented terrifying aura. This aura even made Ancient One feel like he couldn't breathe. Ancient One couldn't help but feel a little confused, and didn't understand what was wrong with Galactus. Why did he suddenly get so angry? Galactus' palms were full of colorful light, and then he punched towards the mirror space. Crack! The mirror space shattered instantly. The violent cosmic energy even formed an energy body like a tornado at this moment. With the Silver Surfer in trouble and his daughter's cry for help, it would be strange if Galactus didn't go crazy. Seeing this, Ancient One immediately pinched his fingers and chanted a spell, preparing to seal the mirror space again. However, at this moment, the mark on the forehead flashed, and at the same time, the impatient roar of the Devourer of Planets came to his ears. "Ancient One, don't get in the way. That guy is here. My daughter is in danger. If anything happens to my daughter because of you, I will explode myself and drag you in the earth to be buried together." Because it was a communication in the soul, Ancient One instantly understood what Devourer of Planets meant. Ancient One's face changed drastically at this time. Without saying a word, he changed his hand gestures, and the mirror space around him shattered. The reason why she was so decisive in releasing the mirror space. First, Ancient One knew that Devourer of Planets would definitely not lie, let alone deceive herself with such things. Second, she didn't dare to gamble. After all, the power of that existence had already appeared. If that existence really came to the Earth, she would still argue with Devourer of Planets in the mirror space, which would be really too indifferent. "Asshole, don't hurt my daughter," Devourer of Planets roared, and the violent cosmic energy turned into a group of extremely terrifying beams of light, bombarding in the direction of Ganata. The surrounding space was shattered by the bombardment of this energy, just like fragile glass. Chapter 249. Such a weak god, afraid to use force. My back. Loki covered his lower back and barely stood up. Crack! "Ah, my back!" The crisp sound of bones rang out, and the severe pain almost made Loki cry. Fortunately, this guy's frost giant blood is durable. After straightening the dislocated spine, he finally stood up straight. If it were someone else, after this kick from Spider-Man, even if he was cured, he would probably have to spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair. Come to think of it, after all, Loki is a man who has been ravaged by the Hulk, so this little damage is still bearable. Spider-Man landed beside Tony, looking at Loki, who was still rubbing his back with some surprise. Chapter 229. He was holding the cosmic surfboard and studying it. It must be said that this cosmic energy is indeed something. The power is pure, and it is also quite complex. Kinlaw tried to call up the power inside, but he never got the point, and always felt that something was missing. Those cosmic energies felt quite compatible with any of the four systems, but when they were really fused together, they could not be fused. They would be rejected after a while. However, during the fusion process, Kinlaw could sense that the power of his four systems had grown a little bit, but the degree of growth was very limited, not as good as the growth of Kinlaw's power in one breath. Kinlaw had a hunch that if he could understand the secret of cosmic energy in the cosmic surfboard, it would definitely be a lot of good for him. The help would definitely not be small. Chapter 247. New mark. Ganata's ultimate skill in the mirror space. The Devourer of Planets was still constantly manipulating the cosmic energy, rushing towards the power remaining in the center of the Ancient One's eyebrows, even though the most critical power had been expelled and swallowed by him. But the remaining power was still not to be underestimated. If it is not handled properly, it will be a big trouble. Even if every time he expels a ray of power, it will cause a considerable loss of cosmic energy. But Galactus doesn't care at all. He has plenty of cosmic energy, and he has won previous battles by quantity. There is no way, who lets him be rich. To put it bluntly, now Galactus is so poor that he only has cosmic energy left, Ancient One is naturally not idle at this time. She constantly controls the mystical magic energy in her body to assist Galactus to expel those terrible forces more quickly and accurately, with the cooperation of the two big guys. Soon, the terrifying aura on Ancient One's forehead dissipated completely, without even a trace left. Half of it is finally solved. Galactus felt the expulsion of power and breathed a sigh of relief. Then he looked at Ancient One with a serious face and said, "Next, I will use cosmic energy to help you seal this gap. The process may be a little painful. Don't resist, and don't let your soul leave your body, otherwise it will be very troublesome." Hearing Galactus' words, Ancient One said seriously, "I know the seriousness of this matter, and I don't want to be left with traces of breath by that person, so please trouble you to deal with it." Galactus heard this, and a trace of appreciation flashed in his eyes. There was no more nonsense, and the cosmic energy in his hand gathered again. After a while, the large gap between Ancient One's eyebrows was filled by cosmic energy, and the flesh and blood also grew back at this moment. Ancient One looked a little painful, biting his teeth slightly, and a trace of bright red blood appeared at the corner of his mouth. The gap filled by Galactus is not only in the body, it is more in the soul. Those majestic cosmic energies are now filling and carving something on the soul of the Ancient One. That kind of pain is thousands of times more painful than carving something on flesh and blood. Even though the Ancient One is calm and tough, it is difficult for him to accept this kind of pain calmly. Not shouting out loud is enough to prove how strong the Ancient One's endurance is at this time. Fortunately, this process is not long. In about 1 or 2 minutes, the palm of the World Devourer left the head of the Ancient One. At the same time, a colorful mark appeared in the position of the original dark mark. It looks extremely dazzling and contains very impressive power. It is much stronger than the dark power of Dormammu in the past. It adds a bit of sacredness to the white salted egg of the Ancient One. It seems that she is really a god at this moment. The World Devourer looked at the mark on the forehead of the Ancient One with satisfaction, and the corners of his mouth rose slightly. However, at this moment, the dazzling and flashing colorful mark suddenly dimmed. It soon disappeared in the forehead of the Ancient One. Seeing this scene, the face of the Devourer of Planets instantly stiffened. Ganata hid behind a cosmic meteorite farther away. He patted his chest with a pale face. He looked like he was still frightened, and his forehead was covered with cold sweat. The hair at the temples was even missing a piece. It looked a little discordant, but it added a certain kind of beauty. Speaking of image, it is completely affected by appearance. People with high appearance look good in a sack. People with low appearance, even if they wear a wide-sleeved fairy skirt, probably look like those weird buyers shows. Just now, Ganata was almost affected by the power of the air-breaking sword-drawing slash. Fortunately, she reacted quickly, and she was standing in a relatively remote position, and she had the life-saving item given to her by the Devourer of Planets. Under these 3 factors, she was able to avoid Kinluo's air-breaking sword-drawing slash. Otherwise, the end would probably be no better than that of the Destroyer. Ganata looked pale at Kinluo, who was holding a silver surfboard in his hand. There was an indescribable complexity in her expression. At the same time, there was an inexplicable sense of shame. It was such a slap in the face just now. She still swore that Kinluo didn't see anything, and her father was better. Now it seems that people don't say it doesn't mean they didn't see it, but they are holding back to play a ruthless trick. An inexplicable idea suddenly came to Ganata's mind. If she stayed with this human, would she be able to avoid her father's pursuit? She could also stay comfortably on Earth. But how to approach this human? This is a problem. What if she is killed by accident? https://w.v''s.net/ from the strength and capital shown by the other party. It is definitely not impossible. This matter needs to be planned carefully. Just as Ganata was thinking about how to approach Kinluo, suddenly, she saw that the Destroyer, who was only half of his body, was approaching the Silver Surfer at a very fast speed. Half of his body was emitting unstable energy. However, the high-temperature beam was still slowly gathering on his face. Seeing this scene, Ganata is not a fool, and naturally knows what the Destroyer is going to do. Suddenly Ganata was a little anxious. When Kinluo attacked the Silver Surfer just now, she was able to remain calm because she saw that Kinluo had no intention of killing the Silver Surfer. She was only interested in the cosmic surfboard under his feet. Anyway, that thing is not irreproducible. As long as her father divides a part of the cosmic power core, it will take only a few minutes to make it. So Ganata was not in a hurry, but now she can see the malice emanating from the destroyer. It really wants to kill the Silver Surfer. With the relationship between Ganata and the Silver Surfer, how could it just watch him get into trouble and do nothing? For a moment, Ganata couldn't help but get a little anxious. She really wanted to jump out and shout to stop, but unfortunately, she didn't have that ability. And Kinluo's attack just now had scared Ganata, and now she didn't dare to confront Kinluo face to face. Seeing the destroyer getting closer and closer, the energy of the high-temperature beam was also becoming more and more condensed. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 230. Of course, this color is only in the eyes of Ganata. In the eyes of others, it is basically invisible, and this colorful energy connection is naturally the insurance set by Galactus. It is to prevent the Silver Surfer from being directly cut off from the connection between himself and the surfboard by a powerful enemy. As long as this layer of his power is not destroyed, the Silver Surfer's own power will not disappear. Stinky old dad, you didn't use it earlier when you were prepared, which made people worry to death. Ganata shook his head and continued to hide and become a spectator. In his heart, he was slightly proud. Sure enough, the old ginger is still spicy. That handsome human is still a little bit worse than his father. He even put away his weapons, but the battle is not over yet. However, did Kinluo really not notice the backhand left by Galactus? The answer is of course number. Kinluo's mind is not a decoration. All energy is clearly seen. The reason why Kinluo put away the ancient dagger in his hand that turned into a lightsaber again was naturally to prepare for the next move. Kinluo actually felt a little regretful at this time. The total amount of energy consumed back and forth was almost enough to perform an awakening. I really didn't expect the Silver Surfer to be so troublesome. If I had known earlier, I would have just used the extreme ghost sword technique to solve the battle in a storm-like manner. Chapter 246. Breaking through the air, drawing the sword and destroying the destroyer. Kinluo put the lightsaber on his waist, and the aura around him was completely restrained. If Kinluo was not standing in the universe at this moment, I am afraid that in the eyes of others, he is now just an ordinary middle school boy. However, only Kinluo himself knows how powerful the ancient lightsaber is at this time. Odin saw that the matter was almost resolved, and the life gate of the Silver Surfer had been broken open. He couldn't help but secretly breathe a sigh of relief in his heart, and his losses were finally over. Controlling the destroyer, he approached the Silver Surfer at a very fast speed. The matter of beating the drowning dog is not just the patent of ordinary people. Even the big guys like the God King Odin cannot be immune. Even Odin could brag about getting rid of the top fighter under Galactus. It had a significant impact on his reputation. However, just as Odin was about to approach, he suddenly realized that something was wrong. The Silver Surfer did not collapse to the ground as he had imagined. Instead, his injuries began to recover at a speed visible to the naked eye, and his eyes, which had been a little dim, gradually regained their brightness. Kinluo still kept his sword-holding posture without moving. Although it looked nothing unusual, this ordinary feeling did not make Odin feel at ease. Instead, it gave him a sense of foreboding. Kinluo did not look like he was going to stop, and it was clear that he was going to use a big move. It must be said that Odin, who had fought for a lifetime, had extremely rich experience. After discovering something was wrong, he turned around and was about to run. Unfortunately, his turn was still a little slow, because Kinluo had already moved at this time, break through the air and draw the sword to slash. As Kinluo swung the ancient lightsaber in his hand violently, suddenly, the world darkened, and then the dazzling sword light spread out from the tip of the sword. It continued to spread to the surroundings. The speed seemed slow, but in fact it had reached a certain extreme speed. Wherever the sword light went, countless spaces began to collapse, especially the space destroyed by the immovable king formation and the heavenly sword. It collapsed again just after it was restored. The space crack was so big, Kinluo couldn't help but nodded secretly when he saw this. The sky-breaking sword slash really deserves the name of sky-breaking. This power, it's powerful enough. Sky-breaking sword slash. Draw the sword to attack the surrounding enemies with sword energy. After charging, the sword energy range and attack power increase, and the power is extremely strong. When I was playing the sword soul profession, the most favorite skills were the big and small swords. The small sword is the sword slash, and the big sword is naturally the sky-breaking sword slash that was just performed. These two skills are excellent in terms of range and attack power, especially the big sword. The range is so wide. The sword light was still spreading into the starry sky. As for whether it would affect some unlucky people, Kinluo had no control over it. The Silver Surfer in front of him, after facing the three powerful skills of the Akulanita array, the Shushan Sky Sword, and the Sky-Breaking Sword Slash, was completely disconnected from the cosmic surfboard. The silver light that had just recovered around him became extremely dim. The whole person floated in the universe, and the eyes that had regained their brilliance also lost their vitality. He looked like a wooden man. Of course, this was just a manifestation of discomfort after being separated from the endless cosmic energy. If the Silver Surfer was given some time to recover, he would still be able to adapt. In terms of strength, he was at least a little stronger than the current captain, Black Widow, and Hawkeye trio. As for the destroyer who wanted to run away, it was even more miserable. Before he could run a few hundred meters, the entire huge metal body was directly split in half by the sword light. Not only that, with the sword energy entering his body, the current destroyer was completely in a semi-paralyzed state. The magic lines on the room metal have been almost destroyed. With all his strength, Odin can probably only barely control the upper body. As for the lower body, it is completely lost. Looking at the destroyer who has accompanied him in battle for many years, Odin almost burst into tears. He never thought that he still couldn't save his baby. If he could do it again, he would never choose to send the real destroyer down to Earth. Anyway, it's against a guy like the Silver Surfer who is strong but not fierce. Wouldn't it be better to get a few more Western destroyers? But the facts are in front of him, and Odin can only accept this reality no matter what. There is no place to vent the frustration in his heart. He can't blame Kinluo. After all, the destroyer is his opponent. Kinluo helped because they are in the same camp, and the destroyer is so difficult to deal with. It is natural for him to use some powerful moves. What can he say? What's more, Kinluo's strength is there, and he has to hold back even if he has complaints. Otherwise, his son will be miserable. Kinluo is not a man of martial ethics. He was getting more and more frustrated. Odin could not help but focus his eyes on the Silver Surfer who was suspended in the air and had not yet adapted. He was suddenly furious and evil. If it were not for this bastard, things would not have turned out like this. Odin manipulated the destroyer to grab his lower body with one hand, and then quickly approached the Silver Surfer. Prepare to be ruthless. Get rid of the Silver Surfer. Anyway, Kinluo was the main attacker, and he was just a supporting one. At that time, even if the Devourer of Planets was angry, it could only be directed at Kinluo, and it had little to do with him. It would not affect Asgard at all. Otherwise, Odin would not be able to be ruthless to the Silver Surfer. After all, he has a family and a business. If a god, or a street-type Devourer of Planets, holds a grudge against him, Odin can't stand it. Kinluo did not care about the destroyer's unusual movements. Chapter 231. Just when Kinluo was about to take action, he suddenly had another idea. If short-term floating doesn't work, can long-term floating also work? The most powerful floating skill among the ghost swordsmen is not necessarily the extreme ghost swordsmanship. The Akala array can also achieve the same effect, and it can last longer. Kinluo only needs a chance to cut down the Silver Surfer's skateboard. There is no need to consume so much power and release an awakening skill. You must know that the power consumption of awakening is extremely large. Kinluo doesn't want to consume so much power on the Silver Surfer. Kinluo's mind moved. and the lightsaber in his hand turned into a streamer star knife. Then, an evil light wave array was slapped towards the Silver Surfer. Be prepared. If the Silver Surfer runs away during the use of the Akala array, it will not be fun, as Kinlawo's meteors fell heavily on the Silver Surfer. In an instant, the Silver Surfer was enveloped by the dazzling white evil light. The light waves continued to hit the Silver Surfer's body, causing the scars on his body that had not yet recovered to collapse again. The point is that he can't get out of the range of the white evil light at all. Unless his power is strong enough to break through Kinlawo's power, he can only continue to bear the attack of the evil light. Evil light wave array. After hitting the enemy, a circular wave array is generated to attack the enemy, causing all enemies in the wave array to receive multiple attack damage and evil light damage, and they cannot get out of the range of the wave array. Kinlawo did not hesitate at all. At the moment when the evil light wave array was generated, he raised his hand and directly released the power of the Akala array. The familiar dark purple array diagram began to spread rapidly with Kinlawo as the center. However, with the blessing of a part of the Thunder God's breath that has been mastered, part of the runes on the array diagram turned into azure blue, emitting the power of thunder and lightning. In the blink of an eye, the array diagram enveloped the area around Kinlawo by 7 or 8 meters. In fact, if Kinlawo wanted, he could spread hundreds of thousands of meters. It's just that it's completely unnecessary. After all, the real owner is right in front of him now. Anyway, the power will not be affected by the range. Wait until the magic array is formed. The 5 violent energy balls began to shrink rapidly, and then condensed into 5 huge purple and blue flame beads. Each energy ball exuded extremely terrifying power, and the surrounding space began to tremble at the appearance of the flame beads. Odin had seen the power of Kinlawo's move. Seeing this, without saying a word, this guy directly manipulated the destroyer to turn around and run. The speed was extremely fast. He was afraid that he would be affected, but the flame beads were not important. The most important thing now was the forced floating power of the immovable king formation. Under the influence of the forced floating of the immovable king formation, the Silver Surfer's body began to slowly separate from the surfboard. It was basically the same as Kinlawo had expected. It was just that after the forced floating, the Silver Surfer was still connected to the surfboard, and his feet were connected to the surfboard by countless silver cosmic energies. Chapter 245 Shushantangian. Leaving in a backhand the power of the immovable king formation tore the body of the Silver Surfer. The surfboard seemed to have its own consciousness, constantly resisting the power of the immovable king formation, trying to reunite with the Silver Surfer. Kinlawo would naturally not give him this opportunity. However, if he wanted to completely cut off the connection between the two, it would be inappropriate to rely solely on the power of the immovable king formation. With a thought, the power of the immovable king formation stagnated instantly, and then the surrounding space began to shatter. The 5 flame beads that had not yet spread began to show fine cracks. The immovable king formation could be detonated in advance, but the power was still a little worse than when it was fully exerted. Anyway, Kinlawo was not trying to kill the Silver Surfer. It didn't matter whether the immovable king formation was fully exerted. Otherwise, it would be much better for Kinlawo to directly shatter the seal, and the power would be much more powerful. Boom! With a loud bang, the 5 flame beads exploded together. The terrifying wave force instantly shattered the surrounding space, and countless space cracks floated above the void. The destroyer who had just run away was not completely spared, and was eventually affected by the power of the Akalanita formation. Fortunately, it was only the residual power, and did not cause much damage to him. It was just that the raw metal on his body had a few fine cracks. The residual power alone was so powerful, you can imagine what the Silver Surfer would look like if he was hit head-on. At this time, the Silver Surfer was covered with fine cracks all over his body. Silver metal liquid slowly flowed from his 7 orifices. It looked like a terrifying ceramic doll that was about to break. However, the surfboard under his feet, which contained endless cosmic energy, was also shaken back a lot. But the connecting silk thread did not break, but was like a spring. It began to rebound quickly. If it could be made to go back, Kinlawo would really be Wu Leo or wearing a battle suit. Iron Brain Thrombosis, Shushan's secret art, Heavenly Sword. Kinlawo burst out with an extremely sharp breath. The whole person's eyes turned silver-white because of the influence of the sword energy. At this time, the ancient sword in Kinlawo's hand also turned into the appearance of the sword of the drunken sword immortal. It was just a moment. Kinlawo seemed to have merged with the sword in his hand. The next second, Kinlawo, who was originally standing in front of the Silver Surfer, instantly appeared behind the Silver Surfer. Shushan's secret art, Heavenly Sword. The Heavenly Sword needs to be transformed into a sword and reach the state of unity between man and sword before it can be used. The user can control the power of heaven and earth, break the army with one sword, and soar over mountains and rivers. Kinlawo had already reached the state of unity between man and sword when he broke through the Sword Saint realm. He had never used it before, just because he didn't have a suitable weapon. Although the ancient short sword is also a sword, it always feels a bit awkward to use, so Kinlawo was too lazy to use it forcibly. Anyway, the skills of the 4 series Ghost Sword were enough, but now with the weapon transformation, the previous problem is no longer a problem. Bang, 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 then the sticky silver wires broke one after another with this strange sound, and the fracture was abnormally smooth, as if they were cut by something sharp. Odin, who was watching the battle from a distance, and Ganata, who was hiding in the dark, were both shocked at this moment. They seriously doubted whether they had just had an illusion. In a trance, they seemed to see Kinlawo merge into the long sword in their hands. Then the long sword pierced through the silk threads under the feet of the Silver Surfer. But everything happened too fast and too unreal. They really couldn't be sure whether what they saw was true. But after seeing the condition of the Silver Surfer at this time, they were basically sure that what had just happened was indeed true, and they were not wrong. Such power seems to be similar to the sharp power he has shown before. No, it's different. This power is essentially more like the power of Chi in the Dragon Country. But how can there be such a strong Chi? This is completely not on the same level. How many means does this Kinlawo hide? Odin, who was far away in Asgard, almost stared out of his one eye. He found that Kinlawo was like a treasure that could never be exhausted. Every time he thought he had seen through Kinlawo, the other party would always inadvertently show a new power. Ganata covered her mouth. Her eyes were full of doubt and entanglement. It's probably difficult to swallow such power. Otherwise, my throat will definitely be injured. Will it hurt? Ganata muttered and found that something was wrong. She seemed to have gone astray again. She shook her head vigorously, forcibly expelling the desire to swallow from her mind. She looked at the Silver Surfer who had been completely separated from the space surfboard in midair with a worried face. As the daughter of Galactus, she naturally knew the secrets and life points of the Silver Surfer. However, at this moment, Ganata, whose face was full of worry, suddenly changed her expression. A hint of joy appeared in her eyes. She noticed that there was an imperceptible energy connection between the Silver Surfer and the surfboard. This power was colorful. Chapter 232. Ganata didn't know this. It's no exaggeration to say that Ganata has already regarded Silver Surfer as her own family. Now she saw Kinlawo was about to attack Silver Surfer. Ganata's mood can be imagined. She really didn't want to see Silver Surfer die in Kinlawo's hands, but she was just a spectator from beginning to end. But she didn't have the ability to stop it. Although Ganata is the daughter of Galactus, she has abilities that are not much different from Galactus. Even in some abilities, she is better than her father. But the growth in time is a flaw. How long has she been born? And how long has Galactus been born? Endless years are not so easy to make up. After all, not everyone is like Kinlawo. Now Ganata is just barely able to fight with the father level. Facing this level of battle, there is no qualification to participate. Just when Ganata was anxious, Kinlawo had already rushed to the vicinity of Silver Surfer. Facing Kinlawo's approach, the Silver Surfer raised the cosmic surfboard without saying a word. Boom, boom. 2 beams of cosmic energy gushed out, attacking Kinlawo and the Destroyer respectively. Draw the sword and slash. Kinlawo swung the sword and slashed without saying a word, and a circular sword energy appeared like a substance. It was easy to cut the cosmic energy into 2 pieces. The Destroyer, after a transformation, narrowly avoided the bombardment of the cosmic energy. There was no way just now. Odin could only control the destroyer to face it head-on. But now it's different. Kinluo's side is over. He doesn't have to grit his teeth and stand up anymore. You have to hide when you should hide. Kinluo didn't care about the destroyer at all. As he approached, the second section of the sword slash was slashed again. Unlike the first time, the second section of the sword slash was not pure sword intent, but mixed with a unique light attribute electric attack. Sizzle accompanied by a sharp sound of electric current. An obvious black scar appeared on the chest of the Silver Surfer. At the same time, there was a fine electric current flowing in the chest. Kinluo's eyes lit up slightly when he saw this. He didn't expect that this special state of attack would be so effective for the Silver Surfer. Even that layer of silver skin could be easily broken. If this is the case, then the Silver Surfer would be much easier for Kinluo to deal with. The Silver Surfer was stroking his wound at this time. Soon the wound healed at a speed visible to the naked eye, and the electric attack covering it was also wiped out by a large amount of cosmic energy and dissipated without a trace. Then the Silver Surfer didn't stop at all, and rushed straight towards Kinluo. His face still looked neither sad nor happy. The destroyer condensed a high-temperature beam at this moment and attacked the back of the Silver Surfer. However, it was directly ignored by the Silver Surfer. Let the high-temperature beam come. The Silver Surfer's eyes always stayed on Kinluo. Boom. The high-temperature beam exploded on the back of the Silver Surfer, and the terrifying high temperature and explosion did not cause any special damage to him. Instead, it made him rush towards Kinluo at a faster speed. Kinluo faced the extremely fast Silver Surfer. He did not dodge or evade at all. The sword energy gathered on the lightsaber, and then the whole person turned into a swimming dragon, and the lightsaber turned into dragon teeth. He rushed towards the Silver Surfer. Fierce dragon breaking sky slash. The speed of this move is comparable to teleportation. Kinluo and the Silver Surfer collided with each other as if Mars hit the Earth. Bang! With a loud bang, the Silver Surfer was directly knocked out by Kinluo. From the position of the navel to the throat, there was an obvious scar. The swimming dragon condensed by the sword energy around Kinluo completely dissipated at this moment. Instead, a dark red light enveloped the whole body. Kinluo had a sly smile on his lips. Chapter 244 Floating in the air to break the enemy. The lotus root is broken and the silk thread is connected. Kinluo's previous attack was completely equivalent to a trick on the Silver Surfer. On the surface, Kinluo used the fierce dragon breaking sky slash to fight him head-on. But in fact, the moment the two came into contact, Kinluo made a wave of extreme operations. He changed his moves instantly, replacing the dragon breaking sky slash with the broken army rising dragon strike. The broken army rising dragon strike has the effect of forcing a dominant body. The broken army rising dragon strike use the dominant body to charge and repel the enemy while sending a one-handed upper slash to the enemy, causing damage to the enemy. When using heavy weapons, a second powerful slash will be performed, under the dominant body. Kinluo cannot fall or retreat, unless he burps and dies. Otherwise, even those who are stronger than him can't think of repelling him half a step. Not to mention the Silver Surfer. The only thing that surprised Kinluo was that the uppercut just now did not send the Silver Surfer flying. It was the first time he saw an accident with such a move as the uppercut. But when Kinluo looked carefully, he found something wrong. That is, there was a brief separation between the Silver Surfer and the surfboard. And now they are overlapping. Could it be that a floating uppercut type of skill can temporarily allow the Silver Surfer to leave the surfboard? This discovery is more useful to Silver Surfer than the abnormal state, and it makes Kinluo excited. His main purpose is not to kill Silver Surfer, but to take away his skateboard. While Kinluo was excited, he noticed a silver light rushing towards Silver Surfer. He quickly grabbed the silver light in his palm. It turned out to be a small and still wriggling piece of flesh. The flesh contains the same cosmic power as Silver Surfer. https://www.tvts.net/ This must be the silver skin condensed by the cosmic energy of the outer layer of Silver Surfer. It is estimated that it was just cut off by the Pa Junsheng long strike. The power in Kinluo's body surged, directly dispersing the power covered by silver and turning it into the most original cosmic energy. However, when Kinlawo tried to absorb it, he found that this cosmic energy was like the moon in the well. Before the power touched and absorbed it, it dissipated and merged into the universe. This gave Kinlawo some hope. He wanted to see if he could absorb cosmic energy, but on second thought, it didn't matter. Anyway, he had robbed the Silver Surfer's surfboard. What's the point of not having cosmic energy? Just do it. Kinlawo's figure flashed and rushed directly to the Silver Surfer. The fierce dragon broke through the sky again. The whole body turned into a swimming dragon and hit the Silver Surfer. After 4 charges back and forth, the Silver Surfer didn't even have a chance to react. Instead, he was bitten by the dragon's teeth and had several scars on his body. As the last blow of the fierce dragon broke through the sky, Kinlawo's lightsaber suddenly lifted up. Sure enough, the Silver Surfer once again broke away from the connection between himself and the surfboard. It was just a small amplitude, and the connection between the Silver Surfer and his skateboard was restored very quickly, almost in an instant. Kinlawo knew he needed a stronger floating force to be sure to lift the Silver Surfer up, so as to cut off his connection with the surfboard. He tried both Pa Jun Shang Long Jai and Meng Long Duan Kongzhen, but the effect was not particularly significant. Then there is only that one move, Awakening, Extreme Ghost Swordsmanship, Storm Style. When the last move is slashed, it can be said that among the Sword Soul skills that Kinlawo currently masters, the floating effect is the most powerful. As for whether the Silver Surfer can withstand the slash, it depends on his luck. Chapter 233. However, just when he wanted to mobilize the cosmic energy again and give Ancient One a powerful attack, suddenly, he trembled all over and looked at the broken position of the mirror space in disbelief. Is it an illusion? No, it's not an illusion. It's indeed his breath. Damn it, how come this guy is active again? Planet Devourer gritted his teeth, his face full of disbelief. Puff. Ancient One suddenly spit out a mouthful of blood, and the dark mark on his forehead was completely annihilated. At the same time, a terrifying force was transmitted from the dark mark between his eyebrows. The position on the forehead that originally belonged to the dark mark began to be annihilated. Both flesh and bones turned into nothingness at a speed visible to the naked eye. Damn it, Planet Devourer couldn't help but curse inwardly when he saw this. Then he rushed to the front of Ancient One, stretched out his hand, and directly pressed on the position of Ancient One's completely annihilated mark. However, this time Ancient One did not resist. Let the palm of Planet Devourer cover the wound between her eyebrows. Ancient One is so cunning. She could tell at a glance whether Galactus had any intention of attacking. That was why she was so calm and let you harvest her. Ancient One also noticed the source of her own changes. It must be that Dormammu provoked the existence that should not be provoked the most. Or rather, the existence that should not be provoked the most targeted Dormammu. As a result, she also followed suit. After all, sooner or later, you will have to pay for what you have done. Ancient One has been so carefree for so long with Dormammu's dark power, and it's time to pay a price. Ancient One's heart became extremely heavy at this time, and a bad premonition rose faintly. Now there must be a big change outside. The biggest possibility is that Kinlawo has dealt with Dormammu and Mephisto. But there must be an accident that she could not predict. Otherwise, such a thing would not happen. Thinking of the future that she has not seen yet, or the future that she cannot see, if it is really as she foresaw, things will become extremely troublesome. The colorful cosmic light on the palm of Galactus kept flashing. The annihilated flesh on the forehead of the Ancient One began to stagnate, and a very special power was completely devoured from the Ancient One by the Devourer of Planets. In the universe, Silver Surfer and Destroyer were still fighting each other. One was the #1 fighter of God, and the other was equipped with special combat equipment of the Father level. There was a gap, of course. Basically, the Silver Surfer was suppressing the Destroyer throughout the whole process. The number of times the Destroyer fought back was very few. The few attacks that fell on the Silver Surfer were not painful. Fortunately, the Destroyer was also resistant to beating, although it looked miserable on the surface. But if Asgard was fine, it could still withstand it. Even if it became a pile of rubbish, it could still fight. Kinlawo watched the two robots fighting, and couldn't help feeling a little bored. His eyes gradually shifted from the two people fighting to the skateboard of the Silver Surfer. According to the original plot, the key to the Silver Surfer was on his surfboard. If there was no surfboard, it would be equivalent to cutting off his source of power. The Silver Surfer without a surfboard is just like a stinky little brother. Even the existence of Dr. Doom can deal with him. This shows that if the connection between the Silver Surfer and his surfboard can be cut off, the battle can basically be ended. Kinluo originally had no intention of helping the Destroyer or Odin, but on second thought, Kinluo felt that he had to take action. After all, there is still a big boss to be dealt with. Ancient One has been holding on for a long time. If it takes a long time, there may be some accidents. After all, Ancient One is also the butler Kinluo has reserved. If something goes wrong, where can we find such a powerful and reliable butler? Thinking of Kinluo's flash, the ancient dagger in his hand began to undergo wonderful changes, gradually turned into the appearance of the ancient dust lightsaber. The silver sword body was shrouded in dark purple light, and the hilt seemed to have turned into some kind of transformation device. Although the sword body that turned into light does not seem to be so dazzling, the sharp breath, just looking at it, makes people feel numb. Since we need to cut something, the power of the sword soul is naturally the most reliable. Chapter 243, Worried Ganada, Swordsmanship against each other. Another reason why Kinluo chose to take action. He just wanted to try whether he could absorb the energy of the universe. If he could, the benefits would be great. The cosmic surfboard is said to have infinite cosmic power. By then, his power will not soar. Odin, who was manipulating the Destroyer to fight, felt Kinluo's actions. He couldn't help but secretly breathe a sigh of relief. At the same time, he also felt a little admiration. He didn't expect Kinluo to be able to deal with Dormammu and Mephisto so easily. And it was so miserable. He didn't expect Kinluo to help him. Sure enough, it's better to be in the same camp. The metal on the Destroyer has been specially treated. Not to mention using a little less, but it is definitely not an easy task to repair the Destroyer. At least it will take Odin decades to repair the Destroyer in its current state. And he doesn't have decades to live. At most 10 years. I'm afraid he will die. So if you want the Destroyer to be useful in the future, the less damage it has now, the better. Silver Surfer naturally felt where Kinluo was, but compared to Odin, he didn't have any emotions. Fear or anything like that didn't exist at all. But knowing how powerful Kinluo was, the power that Silver Surfer extracted from the cosmic surfboard began to speed up. Prepare to deal with the two-sided attack. Uncle Silver, Ganata watched Kinluo's actions. Her heartbeat accelerated, and a tangled look appeared on her face. Kinluo dealt with Dormammu and Mephisto. She completely supported him with both hands, even with her feet. She almost jumped out to cheer for Kinluo. But Kinluo against the Silver Surfer was a bit tangled for Ganata. Although the Silver Surfer was her father's #1 fighter, but its relationship with Galactus is very special. Galactus sincerely respects the behavior of his thug. Influenced by his father, Ganata also has a very good feeling for Silver Surfer. They once lived together, and Silver Surfer was just like a big butler. Not to mention that he took care of Ganata meticulously. It was simply watertight. Sometimes, Silver Surfer would even conflict with Galactus for Ganata. Of course, it's not that the relationship between the two is very good. It's just that the orders Galactus gave to Silver Surfer conflicted. This made Silver Surfer very entangled, not knowing which order to choose to obey. Chapter 234. Of course, the first generation of Jiger is an exception. What? Don't you want to come back? Haven't you had enough fun? Or is it that my words are not useful now? Kinluo saw that the ghosts and gods looked at each other and had no intention of taking action, and the smile on his face gradually became kind. But there was an indescribable coldness in his eyes. The ghost energy around him gradually boiled up, and the suppression of the ghosts and gods by the Dark Lord became stronger and stronger. The faces of the 7 ghosts and gods changed slightly. The suppression from the Dark Lord made them very uncomfortable from the inside out. If this continues, I'm afraid it will not be as simple as bowing their heads. Maybe they can kneel down on the spot. If that's the case, it's better to compromise directly. kg of the residual shadow was moved by Sigh of the Frost first. It turned into a black light and a blue light and merged into Kinlawo's ghost hand. Seeing this, the other ghosts and gods no longer insisted and turned into streams of light and entered Kinlawo's ghost hand. Kinlawo watched the ghost and god marks on his ghost hand light up one after another, and nodded secretly in his heart. Facts have proved that the identity of the Dark Lord is still quite useful, especially for these ghosts and gods. But Kinlawo's current strength is still a little weak. If he can completely comprehend the power of the Dark Lord and reach the point where he can summon Jiger, the suppression of the ghosts and gods will rise to another level. But he can never really conquer these ghosts and gods. I'm afraid that with the power of the Dark Lord, at most, these ghosts and gods will be at odds with him. No matter what, these ghosts and gods will not surrender easily. If you want to conquer them completely, you probably need to go to the last step of Devil May Cry, the third awakening, summon the Gate of Hades. But it's too early to think about this now. Kinlawo smiled helplessly. What is the third awakening of the Gate of Hades? Let's get Jiger out first. Kinlawo couldn't help but miss Dormammu, who had just left. What a good person. Helped him complete the second awakening of Devil May Cry first. It's just that he ran too fast. If possible, Kinlawo still wants to communicate more with Dormammu. It's better to contribute the other half of the power of the Dark Dimension, then you won't have to worry about anything. There is definitely no place to look for it now. Dormammu is estimated to run as far as he can. Maybe even if the Dark Dimension is restored, he may not appear. Wait until this matter is over, and see if there is a chance for Ancient One to calculate it. As Dormammu's old rival, Ancient One definitely knows his existence best. Maybe he can take him to find Dormammu, just to get the remaining dark power. Just as Kinlawo was thinking about the remaining power of Dormammu here, outside countless planets, Dormammu is manipulating the remaining dark power and running wildly, feeling the dark dimension that is gradually collapsing. Dormammu almost vomited tons of blood. This matter is simply a loss to him. The loss is not much worse than that damn Mephisto. He kept cursing Kinlawo and the ghosts and gods for their hatefulness and greed. Dormammu ran away with all his strength. At the same time, it was desperately maintaining the dark dimension, trying to prevent it from collapsing again in a short time. Now it didn't dare to stop at all. It was afraid that if it stopped, the 7 terrifying figures would appear behind it. The ghosts and gods really left a deep psychological shadow on Dormammu. It might be lingering in a short time. Dormammu even thought about whether to open up a parallel time and space and go to another world to grow up. This universe is unbearable. Just one Ancient One has made him crazy. As a result, now a human who is 100 times more terrifying than the Ancient One has popped out from nowhere. However, just after Dormammu ran an unknown distance, https://w.v''s.net/suddenly, he felt a terrifying gaze descending on himself. That gaze was very terrifying. It even made Dormammu temporarily forget the fear brought to him by the ghosts and gods. The whole person, to be precise, the entire dark dimension was stagnant in this star field. Haha, Dormammu, we haven't seen each other for a long time. A vague and somewhat sharp voice sounded from the sky. The moment Dormammu heard this voice, his eyes were instantly filled with fear. You are. Annihilation. Chapter 242. The mark shattered and stared at the surfboard. Before Dormammu finished speaking, a terrifying breath flashed. Dormammu's entire dark dimension disappeared without a trace in an instant, and even his breath was not left at all. The entire starry sky seemed as if nothing had happened. New God breath. You shouldn't appear. The 5 great gods are enough. Since you like Dormammu so much, I will use it as a gift for you. I hope you like it. The new god. Hee. A sharp laugh sounded. In an instant, dozens of planets around collapsed one after another and dissipated into the invisible. In the mirror space, the devourer of planets is full of traces left by magic secrets. Although these traces are not as indelible to the devourer of planets as they are to the enchantress and others, but it still takes some time to eliminate it. Galactus was too lazy to eliminate it. It was good to swallow a little of this kind of secret magic from time to time. Just treat it as a snack. Compared with Galactus, the situation on the Ancient One's side was much worse. The robe on his body was damaged in many places, and it was not much better than the beggar's clothes. There was blood flowing out of all 7 orifices. The most obvious one was the dark mark on her forehead. Originally, the dark mark was red and black. It exuded a strange power. But now the dark mark on her forehead was broken. That's right, it was broken. It was broken into 2 sections in the middle, and the light on it was uncertain. It seemed to disappear at any time. The problem with the dark mark had a great impact on the Ancient One. Just now, because of the broken dark mark, her soul was hit hard. You must know that Galactus's attacks almost never stopped. The endless cosmic energy gave Galactus the habit of using the prince's tactics. The Ancient One's soul was impacted, and his double casting was almost interrupted. If it weren't for the fact that the Ancient One reacted quickly and forced his soul to reunite, he would have barely avoided the cosmic energy attack of the Devourer of Planets. Now he would have been dead or dead. The Devourer of Planets would naturally not give the Ancient One a chance to breathe. He was already a little tired of staying in this mirror space. The feeling of being confined in a small room made the Devourer of Planets very uncomfortable. Chapter 235, Saya, did you listen to his orders less, or do you intend to disobey the order of a Dark Monarch? Luasha, Humphrey. Whether he can become the Dark Monarch is still a question. Kajia, Puliming. The ghosts and gods have different thoughts, but they are more or less unhappy about Kinluo becoming the Dark Monarch. After all, they have been exploited a lot during this period of time with Kinluo, especially Breaksiu, relying on the seals left by other berserkers. Kinluo bullied him completely, but they have no way. Under Kinluo's special ghost hand, they have no possibility of resistance. Now with the position of the Dark Monarch, if Kinluo succeeds, then they will have even less possibility of resistance. Breaksiu, Carlo and Luasha are praying in their hearts. I hope that Kinluo's ceremony of becoming the Dark Monarch will be interrupted, and it would be best if it backfires on himself. TVB Novel Network. But at this time, Kinluo did not pay attention to the riots of all ghosts and gods, or he didn't know what happened to these ghosts and gods at all. Now his consciousness is completely immersed in the slide-like picture. This is the memory of the first generation of Devil May Cry, Priest Jiger. In the memory, Priest Jiger used his own power. He constantly broke through from Devil May Cry to Soul Killer, and finally reached the realm of Dark Lord. This experience cannot be described as wonderful. It is simply a bloody history of a genius using the sword in his hand to open up a brand new path. The power of the Devil May Cry series that Kinluo is now using was completely opened up by this man. It is not an exaggeration to say that Jiger is the ancestor of all Devil May Cry power. As the last picture freezes, Kinluo also roughly understands Jiger's life. He can't help but feel a little regretful in his heart. If Jiger hadn't fought with a powerful enemy in the end, he would not have been attacked by a villain, causing himself to be exhausted. He would not have been betrayed by those ghosts and gods, and finally dragged into the gate of the underworld, becoming the 9th ghost god in the legend. However, at this moment, in the picture in front of Kinluo, the man in armor and holding a giant sword comparable to himself opened his eyes. A blue light flashed, and Jig's body was emitting blue flames. A new generation of Soul Killer, your ghostly spirit that is fearless of death attracted me. But do you think that the path of Devil May Cry stops at the Soul Killer? Only those who have truly seen Jiuquan will understand that the power of Soul Killer is just the beginning. I lost my body and entered Jiuquan, where I felt a new power and became the 9th ghost god. Now I choose you to be my power carrier. Accept them. Become the true king of all ghosts, my king, the Dark Monarch. Remember, it's not you who chose me, it's me who chose you. My name is Priest Jig. Jig's words sounded like thunder. It was transmitted into Kinluo's ears and finally engraved in his soul. Kinluo stretched out his hand, without any hesitation, and directly grabbed the big sword burning with blue flames that Jig raised. In an instant, Kinluo felt that his ghost spirit had changed greatly. This change is a qualitative change, as if it had changed fundamentally. All of Kinluo's Devil May Cry skills have undergone some wonderful changes at this moment. Not only that, the 9 ghost marks on Kinluo's ghost hand, the original marks of the 8th and 9th ghosts were dim. With Jiger's changes to himself, the 2 marks also lit up, It's just that Jiger's mark is still very weak. It looks no different from not lighting up. There's no way. Who made Kinlawo not completely master the power of the second awakening? Now Kinlawo has only reached this level. If you want to break through completely, you still need the blessing of the power of darkness. Even now Kinlawo really wants to summon Jiger, but fortunately, there is still a consolation prize. Kinlawo can already use the power of the 8th ghost god, the ghost of Brad, although he can only use Brad's ghost sword formation, but the power of this move is powerful enough. Summon Brad's subordinate sword spirit to attack, and the target will be locked in place and unable to move when attacking. What makes Kinlawo most excited now is the passive skill of the Dark Monarch, Ghost Control. Increase the duration of the ghost formation and Jig's arrival, enhance the power of the ghosts and gods themselves, and have a special pressure to control the ghosts and gods. With the passive skill of controlling ghosts, Kinlawo has controlled those unruly ghosts and gods. The situation like Carlo and Kinlawo's presumptuousness before will never happen again. Kinlawo only needs a small look to suppress Carlo. Although the ghost hand can achieve the same effect, there is a world of difference between the two in essence. Chapter 241 Monarch Suppression. Began to miss Brashu. Damn bastard. It was so easy to succeed. Carlo. Is Jig crazy? How could he like this guy? Kazan. The rest of the ghosts and gods, except for Carlo and Brashu, who had the most resentment towards Kinlawo. The rest of the ghosts and gods chose to remain silent in the face of the fact that Kinlawo had successfully broken through to the Dark Monarch, or it has been acquiesced. There is no way not to acquiesce. Who let him break through? Jig's choice is not something they can change. What's more, because of the fact that they had cheated Jiger in the past, they all had an instinctive resistance to the 9th ghost god. If possible, they would never meet Jiger. In order to avoid being retaliated by Jiger. Hey, are you two still angry? Kinlawo slowly opened his eyes at this time, and the unique ghost aura around him emanated. Instantly, all the ghosts and gods felt a very irresistible pressure. One by one, they all lowered their heads. Even Kazan, without the slightest exception. In terms of status, Kinlawo is already the king of all ghosts. Even if his current strength cannot compete with the bodies of these ghosts and gods. But it is status, which has little to do with Kinlawo's own strength. Of course, if they can meet the true bodies of these ghosts and gods, whether these ghosts and gods can abide by the rules is unknown. After all, even Jiger, who was able to suppress them in the past, can cheat, let alone Kinlawo. Carlo and Brashu did not speak, but the unconvinced little eyes were able to fully interpret their inner state at this time. I just absorbed a little more of your power. Look at how stingy and ignorant you are. If you follow me in the future, I will definitely not let you go hungry. Now come back, Kinlawo said, raising his ghost hand with a peaceful smile on his face. This time, Kinlawo did not take the initiative to suppress the ghosts and gods. He wanted to see if the identity of the Dark Monarch was real. Whether these ghosts and gods could listen to him. These ghosts and gods have lived for countless years. They saw what Kinlawo meant at a glance. With their strength, they have never been ordered like this. Even other dark monarchs were mostly respectful when facing them. Chapter 236. Prepare to enter the dark dimension and escape from this horrible place. Dormammu is now extremely regretful. Why did he get involved in this mess? These are good. It's okay if the creatures on Earth are not obtained. The loss is so great, it's simply a loss of both the wife and the army. Looking at the missing piece of dark power in the dark dimension, Dormammu's heart is bleeding. It's just that Dormammu can't bear it anymore and wants to leave. But will the ghosts and gods let him leave as they wish? The answer is of course no. At the moment when Dormammu's remaining will is about to enter the dark dimension through a special channel, the 7 ghosts and gods exerted their strength at the same time. They actually followed Dormammu's will, found the entrance to the dark dimension. The dark dimension may be a nightmare for other beings, Dormammu's absolute control. But for the ghosts and gods, this is simply the most luxurious buffet restaurant. Feeling the surging dark power inside, all the ghosts and gods are like crazy, desperately rushing into the dark dimension. Dormammu was numb when he saw such a scene. He was even more panicked. He hurried into the dark dimension, trying to disperse the ghosts and gods that poured into the dark dimension. In fact, It was not only Dormammu, even Kinluo himself felt a little incredible. He never expected these ghosts and gods to be so fierce. It was fine to devour the dark power of others in front of Dormammu. He actually went into the dark dimension to devour. It was like a little cow flying a plane. NB is so high, but isn't this a bit too cruel? However, when Kinluo felt the speed of the increase of the ghost energy in his body, his eyes were a little red, and he said to the ghosts and gods through the ghost mark, "Be more cruel, swallow all the dark power of Dormammu." However, the ghosts and gods who were eating did not respond to Kinluo at all. Of course, Kinluo didn't care about it at all. Feeling the rising ghost energy of himself, he was so happy. At this rate, it would only take a few minutes to become the Dark Lord. Maybe he can directly summon Brother G. Dormammu, good man, even better than Mephisto. In the dark dimension, Dormammu is the supreme king. Every move he makes will sweep the power of the entire dark dimension. However, these powers are nothing that ghosts and gods cannot eat. The ghosts and gods scattered. https://w.tvts.net/madly devoured the power of the dark dimension, especially the big guy Brash. He just let himself go. His big mouth never closed. Among all the ghosts and gods, he devoured the most. It was almost equivalent to the sum of the other two ghosts and gods. It would be better if Dormammu did not take action to expel them. With Dormammu's actions, more dark forces gathered. The ghosts and gods saved running back and forth. They just opened their big mouths and waited for Dormammu to feed them. As for Dormammu's attacks, it doesn't matter. Anyway, they can't die. And how much damage can the dark power cause to them? Go to hell. Go to hell. Dormammu roared as if he was crazy. But this time, a black light composed of various forces fell from the sky and chopped at the ghosts. Faced with such a situation, the ghosts still did not move at all. Ignoring Dormammu's attack, they continued to devour the surrounding dark energy frantically. However, this time Dormammu's attack did not fall on the ghosts. Instead, it fell on the interface of the dark dimension closest to the ghosts. Kaka. As the sound of glass shattering sounded, all the ghosts were stunned, and then an angry look appeared in their eyes. They have lived for many years. Naturally, they know what Dormammu is planning at this time. The ghosts are basically sacrificing their lives to save their lives. The ghosts stopped devouring the dark power at the same time, but rushed towards Dormammu. However, the ghost's reaction was still half a step slower. After Dormammu forcibly tore the dark dimension apart, he directly disappeared into this space with the remaining dark dimension. Faced with such a situation, even if the ghosts were unwilling, there was nothing they could do. After all, they are not the original bodies now. At best they are just a clone, still quite weak. Otherwise, how could he let Dormammu run away? Apart from anything else, if Brash comes in his true form, he can completely devour the dark dimension in one bite. After the ghosts and gods devoured all the remaining dark power, they all returned to Kinluo's body under the traction of the ghost hand. Feeling the return of the surging dark power, Kinluo was not polite this time, and did not leave even 1 cent for those ghosts and gods, and absorbed them into his body. He felt it. He was only half a step away from breaking through to the realm of the Dark Lord. The ghosts and gods returned just in time. Chapter 240 Breaking Through the Soul Killer. Dark Lord Dormammu's Dark Dimension. Kinluo naturally knew everything through the ghosts and gods, but now he is no longer in the mood to care about what is going on there. The Soul Killer realm is about to break through. He now needs the dark power brought back by the ghosts and gods to break through to the realm of the Dark Lord in one fell swoop. In fact, Kinluo did not expect that he could break through to that realm so quickly, but after thinking about it, he can roughly figure it out. Kinluo also absorbed a lot of dark power through blood when he was with Mephisto. Add to that Dormammu's half of the dark dimension's dark power. The combination of these two forces is already quite terrifying. All of them were swallowed up by Kinluo, and it was reasonable to break through to the realm of the Dark Lord. It's a pity that these powers are enough to break through to the realm of the Dark Lord, but it's still a long way from summoning the ninth ghost god Jiger. He still has to work hard. Feeling that all the power they had worked so hard to swallow was plundered by Kinluo, all the ghosts were shocked. They looked at Kinluo angrily, and began to riot. wanting Kinluo to return their plundered power to them, especially Carlo, exploited by Kinluo one after another. He was so angry that he wanted to die with Kinluo. However, before they started the riot, they suddenly noticed an incredible and even frightening breath. Carlo, damn it. Why did Jiger choose this damn human? Brash. How long has it been since he broke through to the Soul Killer? Is he going to become the Dark Lord? Kazan, damn it, I don't want to obey his orders. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 237, The soul naturally couldn't escape, and turned into ashes directly with the demise of the body. After the shrill and fearful scream, everything is dust to dust. Old Carter slowly put down the Hell Soul Devourer cannon. The hell flames around him began to jump a little. A trace of human fatigue appeared on the skull. There was no other way to destroy a Demon King directly with the force of thunder, even if it was a relatively weaker Charm Demon King. The power consumed was quite amazing. Even after Old Carter regained his strength at this time, his strength was better than before. Old Carter, are you okay? How do you feel? Johnny ran over and asked Old Carter worriedly. Don't worry, it's okay. It's just that the consumption was a bit excessive. It doesn't matter, the hell energy here is sufficient, and it will recover soon. Old Carter waved his hand. I'm glad you're okay, Old Carter. You and that enchantress, don't ask about things you shouldn't ask. What relationship do I have with her? I have an irreconcilable relationship with Hell. Old Carter glared at Johnny and interrupted him directly. Seeing Old Carter's confession, Johnny was helpless. The two of them rode on their respective mounts and rushed towards the depths of hell again. At this time, the other 6 demon kings of hell were all boiling. As the 7 demon kings, the signs of hell, the connection between them is naturally not shallow, and there's a special mysterious connection. Even Old Carter doesn't know. This secret is only known to the 7 demon kings and Mephisto. Seeing the scene that the enchantress saw before his death, Lucifer was the first to be unable to sit still. He held the sword in one arm and looked fiercely in the direction of Old Carter and the others. The rest of the demon kings were like this, and their eyes were as cruel as they could be. Among the 7 demon kings, the enchantress has a special status. In a certain sense, the 6 demon kings all have a special cousin relationship because of the Charm Demon King. Some places also call this relationship Lian Qiao. Now that the Charm Demon King died in the hands of Old Carter and his men, the other 6 demon kings of hell suddenly raised unprecedented anger. Almost at the same time, the 6 demon kings went out together. They rushed towards Old Carter's path. The whole hell was completely shaken by the death of the Charm Demon King. The 6 demon kings have millions of demons and evil spirits under their command. These forces are combined. If Mephisto did not have absolute control over hell, even he would have to retreat. Old Carter and Johnny didn't know that hell was already in chaos. At this time, they were driving quickly towards the center of hell. At the same time, Old Carter was absorbing the surrounding hell breath to make up for the loss of the previous shot. In the universe, Kinluo, who controlled Mephisto's soul, suddenly felt a slight tremor in his ghost hand. At the same time, the mark of Nether Flame Carlo also lit up a faint light. A rather pure soul power is being transmitted to Carlo's mark along a special connection. Although this power is much worse than half of Mephisto, it is also very precious and can be regarded as a high-quality existence. Kinluo guessed instantly that Old Carter had already started to act. And judging from the quality of this soul power, they have already killed a demon king. It was Old Carter who took action, otherwise, this power would not be transmitted to Carlo. And Carlo, who was tearing the dark power, also felt the transmission of power. The eyes burning with the dark flames instantly brightened. I didn't expect Kinluo to not pit himself. It has only been a short time since he lent his power to the old human, and he has seen the rewards one after another. Although the soul power transmitted before was not strong, it was good in quantity. Now there is a high-quality soul power. For a while, Carlo's whole body was in a different state. and he looked at the other ghosts with a hint of disdain in his eyes. It seemed to be mocking, and there were some other meanings. However, at this moment, Carlo's proud expression suddenly froze, because he felt that his own power was cut off. 90% of the soul power disappeared without a trace, and what he got was only 10% of the sum of those mixed souls, which was slightly less than that. As for the high-quality soul, it didn't even rise at all. Kinluo. What do you mean? Carlo's voice was transmitted into Kinluo's mind through the ghost mark. What do you mean? Of course it's to collect holes. Is there any problem? Chapter 239 Dormammu is numb, sacrificing the car to save the coach. Kinluo. You, too much. Carlo was going crazy at this time, watching others snatch food from the tiger's mouth. He had no way to do anything. This kind of thing happened to a powerful ghost. It was a great shame. It's good to have a little bit. What bicycle do you want? Stop talking nonsense and work quickly, otherwise the dark power will be all theirs. Kinluo rolled his eyes when he heard the words, and after sending a sentence, he decisively cut off contact with Carlo. Carlo wanted to tear Kinluo alive at this time, but he had to admit that Kinluo was right. Now the 7 ghosts are sharing the dark energy. If he doesn't hold on tight, it will really belong to others. In desperation, Carlo turned his anger into appetite and pounced on Dormammu fiercely, tearing off a large piece of dark energy from him. Dormammu has merged himself with the dark dimension. Tearing off the dark energy is tantamount to eating his flesh and drinking his blood. Now the dark energy emitted by Dormammu has been completely swallowed up by the ghosts. This can be seen from the fact that Dormammu can hardly maintain his body shape. In just this moment, Dormammu's dark energy was swallowed by ghosts by nearly 1/10. This number can be said to be quite terrifying. Dormammu didn't know how many years it took for him to save this little property, but the ghosts swallowed 1/10 of it in one wave. I don't know how many years it will take Dormammu to recover. This level of damage is a serious injury to Dormammu, even if it is not as serious as Mephisto's. Damn it, this matter is not over yet. I will come back. Dormammu could no longer bear it. After saying this harsh word, a dark aura surrounded him. Chapter 238. It must be said that at this time, old Carter was really a little impatient, and seemed to be very resistant to the enchantress. Johnny, who was eating melons, felt more and more that the relationship between the two was not simple. However, at this moment, the enchantress dodged old Carter's attack. Then he came to Johnny and said with a little surprise, "Hey, there are actually 2 evil ghost riders. Which angel has not learned his lesson recently and came down to earth to save people?" The enchantress was surprised and looked at old Carter with admiration and said, little Carter, you didn't succeed last time. I didn't expect that you are smart this time and know to bring helpers." The enchantress said that the pink light flashed around him and enveloped Johnny. Not bad, not bad. Let me test the quality. Johnny didn't expect that he would eat melons and eat himself. He didn't dare to be careless in front of this one. Just when he wanted to take out the streamer star meteorite knife to attack, https://www.tvts.net/suddenly, I felt a thick and sweet smell spreading around me. This smell was very strange. Even though Johnny had no heart at this time, he still felt his heartbeat accelerate. The figure in front of him became clearer and clearer. The pink light gradually dissipated. Johnny's desire to attack also disappeared without a trace at this moment. But as the appearance of the charming Demon King completely appeared in front of Johnny at this time, Johnny suddenly felt his heart twitch, and that special sweet heartbeat disappeared without a trace. Instead, he was shocked, puzzled and surprised, because the charming Demon King who appeared in front of him was far from the imagined heroine of the movie. If you look at the left half of the face alone, it's nothing. There is absolutely no problem with the charming and moving, but the other half of the face is a bit scary. It seems that it has been hit by something, and a large part of it has sunken. You can't see what it looks like at all. It is not an exaggeration to describe it as horrible. What is even more terrifying is the difference between the hills. One island a hill that is difficult to cross. The other is at best a fried egg with red dates. There is no comparison at all. With such a weird contrast, it would be strange if Johnny's fantasy was not shattered. You are in such a state, and you still come out to charm people? By the way, "Who beat you?" Johnny said speechlessly as he looked at the charming Demon King who was close at hand. Hearing this, the charming Demon King's originally smiling face froze for a moment. Her teeth were biting and making a crackling sound. She looked down at her body, and the anger in her heart rose again. Did she want this? It was because the secret magic power of the Ancient One was like a maggot on the tarsal bone, which could not be directly removed. She has not been able to fully recover until now. The power of hell alone cannot get rid of it. The enchantress could only rely on the energy collected from the human world to forcibly consume the energy of Ancient One's secret magic. The speed was so slow that it was frightening. She didn't even know how much energy she had consumed to barely recover to this level. You know, it was all sunken before. Now this matter has become a taboo for the enchantress. As a result, Johnny directly said it, and the enchantress felt furious. The original mood of wanting to play around also completely disappeared without a trace. With a sweep of the nails in her hand, a long pink whip appeared in her hand and strangled Johnny's neck. Of course, she knew that the Ghost Rider was immortal, but if she didn't kill Johnny, it would be difficult to relieve her anger. How could Johnny, who had woken up, be controlled by the enchantress? The long knife in his hand swung violently, and a red knife light suddenly shot up into the sky, directly cutting the long whip in the enchantress's hand into two pieces. Feeling the sharpness of the knife, the enchantress was shocked. She dodged quickly but was still half a step too slow. Her horns were cut off. Purple blood quickly overflowed from the broken horns and instantly infected half of her sunken face. She looked even more hideous and terrifying. The enchantress felt the severe pain on her head, and her face became as ugly as it could be. Originally, she got the news that this new Ghost Rider had just taken over the spirit of vengeance. His strength was probably stronger than those demon generals, but it was limited. She could completely control him. However, after seeing Johnny's terrifying power, the enchantress hated the person who spread the news. Is this guy slightly stronger than a demon general? Even she could hardly perform such a terrifying attack. Damn it. Wait, little Carter, if you dare to come to hell, be prepared to accept the wrath of Lord Mephisto, the enchantress thought, and her body was suddenly enveloped by two kinds of flames, pink and orange. Now, it was difficult for her to deal with just Johnny, not to mention that there was also old Carter who was eyeing her covetously. So the enchantress chose to run away decisively. And she had long expected that the Ghost Rider would come to hell to make a scene. So she collected the hellfire in advance as a barrier for escape. There was no way, even as the devil of hell, she didn't want to taste the taste of the Eye of Judgment. Johnny saw that the other party was about to run, so he naturally couldn't watch. The streamer star knife in his hand swung out violently and chopped directly on the flame barrier. However, the imagined splitting flame did not appear. His attack only cut a tiny crack on the flame barrier, and the crack was quickly repaired at a speed visible to the naked eye. The meteorite did not appear either. Seeing this scene, the enchantress was even more fortunate for her original decision. The facts also proved that her preparation was correct. If it weren't for this hellfire barrier, it would be difficult for her to run today. However, she didn't notice that old Carter had raised the muzzle of the gun and aimed it at her head. Chapter 238, Death of Charm. Boiling hell. The flames around Charm Demon King became more and more violent. Her figure became illusory. At this moment, the spatial force in hell is unstable. Even if she wants to use the power of space to escape, it is not an easy thing. But fortunately, she does not need to teleport too far. She does not need to teleport out of hell. Otherwise, the flame barrier may not be able to protect her for a long time. However, at this moment, Charm Demon King suddenly felt a palpitation, and at the same time a feeling of death surged into her heart. This feeling made her feel cold all over. She turned her head suddenly and found that a group of extremely terrifying underworld flames were condensing at the muzzle of the hell soul-devouring cannon in the hands of old Carter. Because the underworld flames were too condensed, the overall color was a little black. Little Carter, do you think you can destroy the hell flame barrier like this? This is the same power as your Ghost Riders. You are just wasting your energy now. Charm Demon King shouted sharply. It seems that he is calming down the panic in his heart in this way. At the same time, he urged the power in his body more quickly, wanting to leave here as soon as possible. Just when most of the body of the Enchantress Demon King had become illusory, old Carter spoke. His tone was calm and there was a hint of nostalgia. Asmodeus, when have you ever seen me do useless work? It is not unjust for you to die under this more powerful hellfire. I will remember you, Enchantress Demon King. Asmodeus, go and clear the way for Mephisto first. Boom! Exclamation mark. As soon as old Carter finished speaking, a shocking sound came out from the muzzle, followed by a huge dark flame beam with a diameter of nearly 100 meters. Around the beam, there was also a unique dark flame, which looked both domineering and terrifying. The dark flame beam easily devoured the flame barrier completely. At the same time, there was the strange body of the Enchantress Demon King. In the dark flame beam, the body of the Enchantress Demon King began to disappear at a speed visible to the naked eye. Chapter 239. Johnny is not a fool. He can naturally see what is going on. He couldn't help but show a bit of embarrassment on his face and said, "Sorry, old Carter, I didn't expect that the power of this knife is so exaggerated." "It's okay, there will be a battle sooner or later anyway, just in time for some fun," old Carter said, aiming at the black spot in front of him and directly launching the Hell Soul Devourer cannon. Boom! With a loud bang, a dark purple dark flame beam gushed out from the muzzle. The dark flame beam cut through the sky, as if it was going to split the sky of hell in half. "Ah!" Times and a shrill scream came from a distance. The shot just now by old Carter killed at least hundreds of demons, including many high-level demons. Boom! However, at this moment, the ground trembled, then hundreds of succubi, thousands of spider demons and miscellaneous demons drilled out from the ground. These demons added up to as many as 5,000 or 6,000. They were able to drill out of the ground, all thanks to the spider demons. These demons are extremely good at digging holes. Open up a special path of warfare. The leaders are a succubus and a spider demon. They are all demon generals under the Succubus Demon King, and they can be regarded as senior personnel in hell. "Ghost Rider, you dared to show up." The spider demon looked at old Carter, and his 6 eyes were full of fierceness. "Haha, it's just right to sacrifice them to the Lord Demon. I believe Lord Asmodeus will be very happy, but I want to enjoy them first." The succubus smiled charmingly, and her eyes were full of special light when she looked at old Carter and Johnny. "Be careful, don't be careless. Ghost Rider is definitely not the enemy of a demon. Even the Lord Demon King can't guarantee that he can take him down." The spider demon was furious when he saw the succubus like this. He scolded in a low voice, "HMPH, Spider, you are not qualified to order me." The succubus snorted coldly, and then waved his hand. "Little ones, take them down and sacrifice them to Lord Asmodeus." "Yes." Times and thousands of succubi responded in unison, and then they emitted a pink and purple light all over their bodies, and rushed towards old Carter and Johnny. "Damn it, come together." The spider demon was full of anger, but there was nothing he could do. He knew the horror of the Ghost Rider very well. If the succubi were annihilated, they would not be much better. In an instant, the remaining demons also moved. Faced with such a situation, old Carter and Johnny took the lead at the same time. Old Carter was seen with dark flames surging all over his body, and at the same time, the Hell Soul Devouring cannon fired several shots in a row. Thousands of demons were instantly destroyed. Johnny was not to be outdone. He held the chain in his hand and swung the Streamer Star Meteor knife like a meteor hammer. The red knife light kept flashing among the demons. The efficiency was not much lower than that of old Carter. However, at this moment, several huge meteorites fell from the sky. There were as many as 7 or 8 of them. Seeing this, old Carter got off his horse and turned into a dark flame horse. He immediately raised his front hooves and ran forward, trampling dozens of demons to death along the way. Boom! Times and huge roars continued to sound. In the blink of an eye, only 2 or 3 big and small cats were left out of the thousands of demons. The spider demon leader was killed by the meteorite because he couldn't dodge in time. The succubus leader was lucky enough to escape the meteorite attack. Old Carter had appeared in front of her without knowing when. The succubus looked at old Carter's so-leading cannon. Her throat couldn't help but dry up, gulp swallowing a mouthful of saliva. The succubus forced a smile. The pink and purple light on her body gradually became weaker. Of course, This was not a sign that she was going to put away her strength. Instead, she was trying her best to seduce old Carter, so she pretended. It was a pity that her little trick was not good enough in old Carter's eyes. Evil. Boom. Just when the succubus leader wanted to say something, old Carter fired a cannon. The succubus was instantly reduced to ashes, leaving no trace. Johnny and old Carter were both very fast. It didn't take long for them to wipe out all 5,000 or 6,000 demons. For a moment, the whole area was filled with a terrifying aura that made the demons tremble. At the same time, the hell flame on old Carter's body and the flowing star meteor knife emitted a faint glow. The surrounding aura quickly dissipated. Old Carter was silent for a while. He saw all of this, but didn't say much. He led Johnny to the depths of hell. Now they were at the edge of the territory of the succubus, and to reach the central area occupied by Mephisto, they had to cross at least 3 demons' territories. Perhaps it was because of the killing spree just now. Old Carter and Johnny rushed out hundreds of kilometers. They didn't encounter any more demons, and some miscellaneous soldiers were directly killed by the hell flames and hell flame emanating from their bodies. They didn't have to do anything at all. Just when Johnny was a little surprised that no demons appeared, the originally barren sky was suddenly filled with pink light. Oh, old Carter stopped his horse immediately, and the hellfire in his eyes flashed. He raised the Hell Soul Eating cannon in his hand and blasted directly at the pink clouds in the sky. Little Carter, it's only been 100 years since we last met. How come you have become so rude? Have you forgotten our past feelings? A very charming and coquettish voice sounded. Johnny couldn't help but feel a surge of blood, and the hellfire on his body became a little unstable. But soon the spirit of revenge in Johnny's body exerted its strength. The hellfire surged instantly, dispelling most of this charming power. As long as Johnny can stick to his original intention, the remaining ones will be harmless. But Johnny is more concerned about old Carter and the so-called charming Demon King beside him at this time. Chapter 237 Caillou is wrong. Charming escapes. Old Carter was not moved by the words of the charming Demon King. He just put his finger on the trigger again. Boom. Another round of hellfire cannon gushed out. This time, the pink clouds in the sky were completely shattered. Then a charming figure fell from the sky, landed in front of old Carter and Johnny. Little Carter, have you forgotten our beautiful past? The enchantress was shrouded in pink light, and his appearance could not be seen at all. However, it gave Johnny ample opportunity to see the beauty of imagery. For a moment, countless movies he had seen appeared in Johnny's mind. Stop talking nonsense, Asmodeus. I'm here for revenge this time. I just don't know if hell is ready to welcome our revenge. Old Carter obviously didn't want to waste any more time talking to the enchantress, and the battle axe in his other hand suddenly chopped at the neck of the enchantress. Chapter 240 Tony raised an internationally accepted hand gesture upon hearing this, and then a blue laser shot out from the hand gesture. It shot directly towards Loki. Loki had not expected that Tony would suddenly attack, and he did so with this hand gesture. Before he could get angry because of the special hand gesture, he subconsciously felt the danger, and when he lowered his head slightly, he felt a void in his head. His exaggerated golden helmet was blown away by the laser, and it fell to the ground with a clang, making a crisp sound. Asshole! How dare you blaspheme God? You're looking for death. Loki was immediately angry, raised the mind scepter in his hand, and fired an energy beam back at Tony. Tony had no intention of resisting. The thrusters started, and he dodged directly. Whoosh, whoosh. However, at this moment, a sound of breaking through the air was heard. Hawkeye took the opportunity to sneak attack, and 2 arrows were accurately shot at Tony's forehead and heart. Hawkeye's sneak attack was just right. Tony didn't react at all. Although he smashed 1 arrow with his palm cannon, he couldn't dodge the second one, and he didn't even have time to open the protective shield. In desperation, Tony had to use all his strength to activate the armor and avoid the vital parts. The blue arrow directly took away a small piece of his armor on his shoulder, but it didn't cause any damage to his body. Moreover, the nano armor has the function of automatic repair, so this problem is not a big deal. However, the situation just now sounded a wake-up call for Tony, and calmed his impetuous heart. The nano armor is powerful, but he is really a little arrogant. If he had followed his original words, he would have opened the protective shield long ago, and he wouldn't have been nearly injured like now. Assholes. You asked for it. Tony growled in anger, and then a blue beam of light flashed in his palm, and his body was covered by a layer of protective shield. But at this moment, Spider-Man's shout suddenly rang behind Tony. "Mr. Stark, be careful behind you." Tony was shocked when he heard this. Without thinking, he turned around and fired the half-condensed arc pulse cannon. Bang! The power of the arc pulse cannon exploded, and then Loki's embarrassed figure appeared not far from him. Loki, who was originally in the square, turned into a phantom and dissipated. "Fuck. Damn human, what a trouble." Loki looked at the little spider who fell from the sky with a fierce look on his face, and raised the mind scepter in his hand to shoot at the little spider. But don't forget, there is Tony behind him. Tony was also furious at this time, and at the same time he became more alert to Loki's weird methods. Seeing that Loki was about to attack the little spider, the anger in his heart was even stronger. He put his hands together and used the protective shield to resist the arrow shot by Hawkeye. Then a palm cannon that was 6 or 7 times larger than the normal palm cannon gushed out and rushed straight to Loki. Feeling the danger behind him, Loki fired the energy beam that was originally aimed at Spider-Man at his palm. Boom! The two energies collided and exploded in midair. Under the residual power, Tony relied on the thrusters to unload the force. Loki jumped high and was about to land gracefully. Spider-Man flew over and kicked him in the waist. The huge force directly made Loki fly backwards, and he let out a scream, and then he fell heavily on the decorative building in the square. But soon, Loki stood up from the ruins holding his waist. He looked extremely embarrassed, which was in sharp contrast to his previous high spirits. In hell, old Carter and Johnny looked at the desolate scene around them. Their expressions were different. Johnny was full of curiosity and a little disgust. Old Carter's face was full of vicissitudes. Thinking back to the past, his experience here was simply unbearable to look back on. Probably identified where he was. Old Carter said to Johnny beside him, "Johnny, this is the territory of the Charm Demon King. Be careful. The Charm Demon King is extremely good at the power of charm. Even the spirit of vengeance is not completely immune to her." "I will be careful." Johnny nodded solemnly. He believed that old Carter would never be aimless, and he must have experienced something to give him such advice. Woo! However, at this moment, a shriek came. Then more than a dozen headless demons and several evil ghosts with only half a head flew out of the sky. Old Carter immediately showed a mocking look on his face, and at the same time, he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. If it were him at the beginning, how could these small fish dare to come forward? Ghost Rider. No, there are 2 Ghost Riders. Run, go and inform the Lord Demon. At first, those small fish didn't feel the breath of Johnny and old Carter. They just felt the strange breath. So they came to check. After all, they are all brainless guys. But as they got closer, they immediately felt the unique aura of the Ghost Rider on old Carter and Johnny. In an instant, those small demons and evil spirits were so scared that they almost peed their pants and fled backwards. A person's reputation is like a tree's shadow. The evil spirit of the Ghost Rider can be said to be well known in hell, and it is also a taboo. But how could old Carter give them a chance to tip off? Just when he wanted to take action and deal with those guys, Johnny took the lead and raised the Streamer Star Meteor Knife and chopped at the demons. Suddenly, the hell flames turned into a knife, sweeping across the surroundings, directly killing those demons and evil spirits into ashes. At the same time, a whistling sound came from the sky. Then a huge meteorite emitting a red light fell from the ever-barren sky of hell. It hit the place where the demon just dissipated, at an extremely fast speed, and also with a strong pressure. Boom! With a loud bang, the meteorite fell to the ground and directly smashed a huge deep pit on the ground. At the same time, the violent flames spread, causing the surrounding temperature to soar several times. Old Carter and Johnny were both startled by the sudden appearance of the meteorite. Even though Kinlawo had told them long ago that this knife had the special power to summon meteorites, but they never expected that this special power would be so exaggerated. Chapter 236 Easily Kill the Devil. Eat melons. Old Carter came back to his senses. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. The noise was too loud. Originally, Old Carter was going to sneak into the village, no guns, solve those demon kings one by one. Now it seems basically impossible. With such a noise, let alone those hell bastards, even the demon generals and demon kings will probably be attracted. Moreover, the 7 demon kings are of the same blood, and they have a special connection between them. As long as they are given time, they can immediately summon the rest of the demon kings. But this was all done by his son, and it was too late to say anything. At worst, just fight head on. Anyway, it's not impossible to fight, not to mention that they have an absolute trump card. Be careful, Johnny, the enemy will probably appear soon, Old Carter said as he directly infused the Hell Soul Devourer cannon with hellfire, ready to fire a direct shot at the demon when it appeared. Chapter 241. Don't worry, Mother of the Gods, I will definitely bring Loki back, and I will also bring back a girl. I hope you can accept her. Thor couldn't help but think of Jane Fortes. He looked at the queen with some expectation, although Odin had expressly forbidden him from contacting Jane Fortes. But how could Thor, who was in love, obey his father's orders? It's better not to do this, otherwise, she is likely to be in danger, the queen said, and her eyes looked towards the secret room involuntarily. Thor instantly understood what the queen meant, and the expectation in his eyes and the excitement of going to the earth immediately dissipated. Cold sweat fell on his forehead. Don't think that Odin's fatherly love is greater than his majesty in front of him. But in fact, he is a ruthless man who has conquered the 9 realms, and has controlled Asgard for so many years. If you say that he has no thundering means, only a fool would not believe it. If you really want to change something, maybe you can go and contact the human named Kinluo. With him, many things will change, including your fate. After hesitating for a moment, the queen decided to point out a clear way for Thor, even though she knew that if she said it, it would most likely change Thor's fate. But so what? Isn't Thor's fate miserable enough? Even if it gets worse, how bad can it be? You must know that the queen is not only good at magic, she also has the blood of a witch. She is involved in all kinds of wonderful witchcraft, including divination. It's a pity that her divination is not as accurate as the time gem of Ancient One, but it also allows her to see many things. She now knows in her heart that if she wants to change the fate of Thor and Loki, Kinluo is definitely the top priority, because Kinluo is an existence that she has never been able to predict from beginning to end. Kinluo's existence is more like a bug. Many things have changed because of his existence. Thor was stunned when he heard this, and then looked at the Meow Meow hammer in his hand. To be honest, he really didn't want to have any contact with Kinluo anymore. He always felt that his Meow Meow hammer was on Kinluo, suffering some unknown horror. Otherwise, he wouldn't want to run away as soon as he saw Kinluo's Meow Meow hammer. Even though Kinluo's 2 strange coins helped him through the difficulties. Hearing his mother say this, Thor wanted to refuse as soon as he came to his senses. After all, he didn't want to deceive his mother. But when he saw the seriousness and earnestness in his mother's eyes, and even a little bit of begging, Thor finally nodded. The queen was relieved when she saw this. She knew Thor, and as long as he promised something, he would definitely do it. So she waved her white jade palm and said, "Okay, Thor, go and bring your brother back. I will leave a space mark on you. When you have completed what you want to do, use the power of Thor to activate him, and I will bring you back. Then I'll set off." Mother of the Gods, please take care of yourself, Thor said and half knelt in front of the Mother of the Gods. Then he jumped into the space gate. I am your god. On a certain square, Loki shouted loudly to the people kneeling on the ground below. However, he did not get the response he wanted. Instead, several people who were ready to move tried to escape. Unfortunately, they were shot and killed by Hawkeye beside Loki before they ran a few steps. After Loki activated the Cosmic Cube longbow, Hawkeye's attack power and frequency were raised to a higher level. A group of security personnel who had been controlled by Loki raised their guns at this time. As long as Loki gave an order, these people would pull the trigger without hesitation. But in the end, Loki still did not issue an attack order. He still wanted to use these humans who had some influence. Naturally, he could not kill them, even if those who escaped made him feel very unhappy. "I say, I am your god. All of you kneel down," Loki said, and suddenly hit the mind scepter tied with some material. Suddenly a blue light emanated, directly covering the people present. It must be said that after the simple repair of the mind scepter, it was shivering and looked terrible. If Loki was wearing a beggar's clothes, he would look like a beggar's elder. As the blue light covered, the panic in the eyes of those people disappeared, replaced by fanaticism, the madness of seeing their own beliefs coming. God, oh my God, times and everyone began to kneel down madly. It is not an exaggeration to describe it as pounding garlic. Are you Bambi's father? However, at this moment, a slightly sharp voice sounded. Loki turned his head suddenly and found a person wearing red and gold armor, who was somewhat similar to the destroyer, floating not far from him. Who else could it be if it wasn't Tony? And the people of S.H.I.E.L.D. who were hiding in the dark saw Tony suddenly appear. They were both happy and helpless. They were happy about the appearance of Tony, a powerful fighter, but they were helpless because Tony's appearance completely disrupted their original plan. HMPH, ignorant human. Loki snorted coldly, and then gave Hawkeye a look. Hawkeye immediately drew his bow and shot 3 arrows in a row. Swish, swish, swish. 3 consecutive blue arrows flew out and shot towards Tony in the shape of a finished product. Faced with such an attack, Tony naturally ignored it. He raised his hand and fired the palm cannon, accurately smashing the arrows in midair. Seeing that Tony had some tricks, Loki's eyes became slightly more solemn. TSK, is this the magic cube weapon? It's nothing great. Tony looked at the special bow and arrow in Hawkeye's hand, with a bit of sarcasm in his tone. Hawkeye, who is he? Loki looked at Hawkeye, who was about to attack again, and asked, my master. His name is Tony Stark, one of the richest people on Earth, and also a genius. He has a deep relationship with Kinluo. Hawkeye briefly explained Tony's identity. However, Loki didn't care too much before, but when he heard that Tony and Kinluo had a very deep relationship, Loki's eyes immediately flashed with a gleam. He looked at Coulson beside him. Deeper than you. Much deeper than me, except for May Parker. Tony and Kinluo have the deepest relationship. Chapter 235. Embarrassed Loki, exaggerated meteorite human, submit to me. Loki looked at Tony with a sharp eye. In his opinion, the more people who can threaten Kinluo, the better. The more the better. He can also see that Tony is a person with good means. It can definitely bring him a lot of benefits. It's a pity that Loki's tricks don't work among ordinary people, not to mention Tony. Chapter 242. After looking at Maypark with gratitude, he nodded. Although Harry wanted to fight side by side with his good brother, his strength did not allow it, so he had to accept it. What should we name this action? After all, we can be considered to be saving the Earth, right? Spider-Man said with a little excitement. He was quite happy to be a superhero. Who would have thought that after he said this? Maypark's face became a little weird. However, he still coughed lightly and said, Kin said when he left that this action is called the Hero Community Residential Committee Cleaning Action 1.0. Instantly, everyone's face became stiff when they heard it. Chapter 233. Tony and Bangbu, the Gate of Space. As Tony continued to gain a deeper understanding of the Dragon Country culture, he already had some understanding of the words such as the neighborhood committee cleaning. The scene of several uncles and aunts holding brooms and wearing little Red Riding Hoods constantly sweeping the streets appeared in his mind. That jerk. Doesn't he know how to come up with a nicer name? What the hell is a neighborhood committee? Cleanup operation. Does he treat these guys who invaded the Earth as garbage? It's still 1.0. What? Is there a 2.0 version? Tony really lives in Bangbu, so he started to complain directly. Although Spider-Man didn't dare to speak, he still nodded in agreement with Tony. Why don't you go and talk to him? I can't do anything. May Parker spread his hands and said helplessly. Spider-Man immediately shrank his neck, and the spirit that wanted to resist just now disappeared completely. Originally, the venom in Spider-Man's body wanted to taunt him, but Spider-Man had already predicted what Venom would say. He took the lead in speaking in his heart. Venom, if you have the ability, you can speak out and resist now, or wait for Brother Keen to come back and protest to him. I promise not to stop you. Venom. Venom was speechless. HMPH. Forget it. Call me whatever you want. Tony looked at May Parker with a helpless look on his face, and finally snorted helplessly, gently patting the new arc reactor on his chest. Then he tapped a few special markings on the jacket, the nano armor hidden in the reactor, and the jacket immediately began to spread all over his body. It's just that the current nano armor has not been fully developed and mature, and it is not like the original plot, which can be spread all over the body in an instant. It took 3 or 4 minutes before the nano armor completely covered Tony. But even so, it was enough to amaze the people around. As the saying goes, laymen watch the excitement, while experts watch the doorway. Compared with the amazement of the 3 girls, May Parker, Roseanne, and Pepper, Spider-Man, Norman Osborn, and Harry all looked at Tony with a strange look in their eyes. That fanatical look seemed to want to eat Tony. Only Daredevil moved his ears in a daze, and he could sense that Tony had changed in some way, but he had no way of knowing what happened. Fortunately, there was Spider-Man, a chatterbox, around, who briefly told Tony about his nano armor. Daredevil immediately showed an expression of admiration for a poor kid like him who relied on his own armor. Spider-Man's spider armor was already the ceiling, not to mention the nano armor, which was almost something he had never heard of. Tony enjoyed this feeling very much. Proudly, he rushed out of the window like Kinluo. The thrusters started, and the whole person floated in the air and said, "I will act alone this time. You guys just clean up slowly, but if you need any help, don't hesitate to ask." Tony was about to leave. However, at this moment, May Park's voice sounded from behind. "Tony, Kin said that whoever acts alone will have his right to live in the hero apartment revoked. Especially you." Fuck, that idiot is definitely doing it on purpose. "I'll go for a walk first." Tony, who was about to fly, lost his balance and almost fell from midair. He was so angry that he cursed loudly, but he had to compromise. Tony is not a fool. He can naturally see the potential of the hero apartment. He doesn't want to leave this almost absolutely safe position. Recently, he is renovating his room in the apartment. He is going to connect his room with Pepper's room and install Jarvis's intelligent mechanical arm. And he is also thinking of asking Kinluo for 2 more rooms to build a studio and a wine cellar. But he hasn't told Kinluo yet. As the thrusters started, Tony quickly disappeared into the sky. The others followed one after another. In order to give Spider-Man a surprise, May Park chose to start a step slower. After everyone set off, he slowly used the moon step to rush towards Loki's current location. Pepper looked at May Parker's back and clenched her fists. She was different from Roxanne. Although Roxanne was very excited about this kind of thing, she didn't have the courage to take the step of a superhuman. But it was also true that she had experienced too little, unlike Pepper, who first had Whiplash and then the Green Goblin. And there was also the time when Obadiah's stain was sealed. Pepper looked at Tony's former armor and her mind became more active. Tony could be Iron Man. Why couldn't she? The more she thought, the brighter Pepper's eyes became. Ascrit. Odin was manipulating the Destroyer to fight the Silver Surfer in the secret room, and Thor was studying the issue of going to Earth with the Queen. Now that the Rainbow Bridge has been destroyed and has not been repaired, if you want to go to Earth, you have to use your strength to open the door of space. A simple and rough guy like Thor naturally doesn't have such power. Odin doesn't have time yet, so he has to let the Queen come forward. Although Loki, the first magician in the 9 realms, is not a small one, it is undeniable that this guy is quite good at magic. It's a pity that the opponent he is facing now is really not in line with his own level. Kinluo doesn't need to say much, just Ebony Maw. The two are not in the same level. The Queen's power is not much worse than Ebony Maw. It's just that her magic is not as aggressive as Ebony Maw, and her magic is more inclined to auxiliary magic. Maybe this is why Loki became a melee mage. Magical energy constantly surrounds. Soon a stable gate appeared in front of Thor. At this time, the Queen was already sweating profusely. Her face became slightly pale, and she looked overly tired. Compared with Ebony Maw, it seemed to be much more laborious. There is no way, who can't let the Queen establish a connection with the space gem. Otherwise, this process would be much easier, and this is to open the space gate for her son. Naturally, it is much more sophisticated than the space gate that Ebony Maw created for Loki. Mother of the gods, thank you for your hard work. Seeing the Queen's look, Thor quickly supported her. his face full of guilt. "It's okay, kid, go, be careful, and forgive your brother if you can." The queen looked at Thor with slightly dim eyes. From the beginning to the end, she was very resistant to the fact that the two brothers killed each other, but there was nothing she could do, because it was Odin's arrangement at this time, and she had to admit that Odin's arrangement was not wrong. The future of Asgard is destined to be so cruel. Chapter 234 Thor's Arrival, The Deepest Relationship. Chapter 243 After all, he is in a special state of soul-splitting, especially half of his soul and body were destroyed. It is definitely a heavy blow to him. It is not impossible to operate on two lines again, but the loss to himself is too great. If Mephisto really did that, it is estimated that he will not be able to recover for 100,000 years. Save your energy, Mephisto. I won't let you die now. This drama is only 1/3 of the way through. If you die now and can't see anything, it will be so boring. Don't you want to see the scene of Dormammu and the Planet Devourer's tragic defeat? Kinlawo said as he sat cross-legged in the void. The blood and chi power in the body kept hitting the bottleneck. Although Mephisto still had a lot of blood and chi power left, it was still unclear whether he could really break through the realm of the Hell-Blood demon god to the Emperor Blood-killing heaven. Kinlawo was not particularly sure in his heart. At the same time, Old Carter and Johnny, who entered Hell just after destroying thousands of demons, they accidentally broke into the territory of the charm, yin, temptation, Demon King. As luck would have it, the charming Demon King was in the territory at this time, plundering the essence of his subordinates to fill his own vacancies. That's the hill. Chapter 232 Armor Middle. Ghost Rider, cleanup operation. Before Kinlawo saw Mephisto appear, he sent a signal directly to Old Carter and Johnny through the streamer star meteor knife. Inform them that the time has come and they can enter Hell. Johnny and Old Carter have been prepared for a long time. Seeing the streamer star meteor knife light up red, the two immediately transformed into Ghost Riders. At this time, one of them rode a warhorse and the other rode a motorcycle. They were wearing specially made hell armor. After the transformation, the handsomeness was simply indescribable. The hell armor no longer felt a bit bloated, but attached to their bodies like real armor. The specially made spikes or claw blades attached to them became particularly ferocious and domineering. The flame cloud pattern was all over the body. The red Johnny exudes a sharp aura all over his body, and standing there is a burning blazing fire. Combined with the slightly demonized streamer star blade, he is simply handsome to the bone. But Johnny is also quite creative. He actually used the hell flame to merge the streamer star blade with his own hell chain. The chain was wrapped around his arm, and in his hand was holding a more curved streamer star blade. It looks like Ichigo Kurosaki's moonless state in death, but compared to Ichigo Kurosaki's moonless state, he is less mysterious and more aggressive. And the appearance of Old Carter after transformation is more domineering than Johnny. Dark purple-black flames are burning all over his body. The changes in the hell armor are no less than Johnny's. One hand holds an axe, and the other hand holds the hell soul-devouring spear. Under the magic modification of the dark flame, the hell soul-devouring spear has become longer and more rough. At first glance, that is not a gun, it's just a hand cannon. The two looked at each other and nodded slightly, obviously very satisfied with their new changes. Tony, who was observing secretly, almost died of jealousy. He suddenly felt that his technological power was not good enough, and other people's hard work was really cool. Thinking of this, Tony secretly made a decision in his heart. In the future, he must get more raw materials for ice spider silk, then make anti-ghost knight armor, beat them up. Otherwise, it would be difficult to eliminate his envy and jealousy. Old Carter and Johnny came to the center of the artificial lake. Old Carter slightly raised the hell soul-devouring cannon in his hand, aim at the center of the lake. The dark flames on his body burst out at this moment, gathered in the muzzle. Prepare to forcefully open the passage to hell. There is no way. Since the last time the Ancient One entered Hell, the space around Hell has been completely blocked. Although it was later lifted by Mephisto, it was not cleaned up too cleanly. The power of the seal still exists, so it is basically impossible to sense the location of Hell and transmit it through normal channels. Old Carter tried to sense it, but the result was very unstable. Old Carter didn't dare to try such a hell passage. God knows where he will be teleported to, so he had to resort to this last resort and force the hell passage to open. Although this is still not so safe, it is much better than the normal way. Boom. With a loud noise that almost resounded through the soul, a ball of almost black hell flames gushed out from the hell-so-leading cannon. The hell flame bombarded the ground and did not cause any damage to the artificial lake. Instead, it seemed that the attack failed. But the next second, a dark purple vortex appeared at the place where the shelling just happened. It was the back door to hell. Old Carter nodded slightly to Johnny, then jumped directly into the vortex. Johnny followed closely and jumped into the vortex. As the two entered, the vortex flashed a few more times and then disappeared without a trace. Everything seemed as if nothing had happened. Only Tony and Spider-Man saw the whole process. With different expressions, Rashan's face was full of worry. After all, she was still an ordinary person. It would be strange if she didn't worry when she learned that her fiancé went to hell. Don't worry, Kinlawo has his reasons for arranging it this way. Believe him, he will never let Johnny and Old Carter get into trouble. May Parker put his arm around Rashan's shoulders and comforted her softly. Should we go meet that guy with a weird aesthetic now? Seriously, isn't he really playing the role of Bambi's father? Tony said, pointing to Loki on the screen, holding a scepter and giving a passionate speech. In front of him, there were many wealthy people or rich sons who looked terrified kneeling. What Tony complained about at this time was naturally the exaggerated helmet on Loki's head. Let's act together. Those people in S.H.I.E.L.D. are not very reliable. Who knows what problems may arise at that time? May Parker said, and saw Norman Osborn, who looked embarrassed. The Green Goblin is not the evil personality before. It's okay to let him do some research. It's possible to deal with some ordinary people, but it's really a bit too much to ask him to fight with extraordinary people. And after what happened last time, Norman Osborn has an instinctive resistance to fighting. The same is true for Harry. He knows how to play with pumpkin bombs, but his body is still in the state of an ordinary person, and the Green Goblin serum has not been arranged yet. There is no problem with fighting, but the probability of casualties is also very high. After all, the metal exoskeleton is not like Tony's battlesuit, which cannot provide comprehensive protection. Mr. Norman, I wronged you and Harry to stay at home for the time being. If we all leave, this place will be a bit empty, although there will be no problems. It's just in case. After all, every plant and tree is carefully arranged by Kin, and he has put in his hard work. May Parker looked at Norman Osborn and spoke seriously. Norman Osborn is not a fool. He knows that May Parker is trying to give him a way out. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 244. He stretched out his hand and pressed it directly on Mephisto's head. The power of the soul-destroying hand exploded instantly, preparing to suck another wave of blood and energy. Soul-destroying hand. The target is forcibly absorbed in the hand. During the process, the blood and energy will continuously impact the target's body and plunder the target's blood and energy. After the blood and energy explode, it will cause a lot of damage. Now his blood and energy power has reached a certain limit, and he is not far from the second awakening. Just go for a big wave directly. Mephisto let Kinlawo control him with the soul-destroying hand. Endless blood and energy constantly impacted Mephisto's body like a tide. At the same time, the blood and energy in his body were plundered. Suddenly, Mephisto's body became thinner at a speed visible to the naked eye. Gradually, it became skinny. The red light in Kinlawo's eyes was even stronger at this moment. You can't kill me. As long as hell is not destroyed, you can't kill me. Kinlawo has to come to hell to find me. I will definitely treat you well. Mephisto gritted his teeth, endured the pain of his body's vitality being forcibly deprived, and shouted to Kinlawo, "Yes, as long as hell is not destroyed, you will not be destroyed, especially since you have hidden part of your soul in hell." Mephisto, You really deserve to be a monster who has lived for so many years. If you want to say that you have the ability to keep a hand, you really can." Kinlawo nodded in agreement, looking at Mephisto with a look of pretended admiration. However, the smile on the corner of his mouth has a little irony. Hearing Kinlawo's words revealing his means, Mephisto's originally stubborn and unruly appearance became stiff. He looked at Kinlawo in disbelief. Even if Kinlawo is stronger than him, it is impossible to see through his soul. Even the devourer of planets has not discovered something. How can he discover it? Chapter 231 Can't Die. Sword Seal Soul Sealing Technique. Did Mephisto have a backup plan? Of course he did. His backup plan was to split his soul, leaving half in hell, and the other half rushed here with the body. For a being like Mephisto, the body is definitely not as important as the soul. The body can be reshaped again without it, but if the soul is gone, it's really over, leaving the soul in hell. Even if the body and soul are destroyed, for him, it's just a broken bone at most. At worst, he will be sealed in hell for 10,000 years and slowly recover, and this is just the worst plan. In fact, Mephisto's backup plan is really not for Kinlawo and Guyi. In his opinion, this invasion of the Earth is already 100% safe. There will be no accidents at all, and the person he really has to be wary of is, of course, the devourer of planets. After all, that God wants to kill him all the time. Even if the other party promised that as long as his daughter Ganata is found, the past will be forgiven. But will a being like Mephisto believe what others say? Don't joke. Mephisto sometimes doesn't even believe himself, not to mention believing his enemies. Now this body plus half of the soul, although it can't exert 100% of its strength, but it can reach about 90%, and the power and aura of the whole body are not bad at all. Even the planet devourer didn't see the abnormality of Mephisto. Mephisto has worked hard for this, but Kinlawo saw through it at a glance. How could he not be shocked? Mephisto suddenly found that he, the Lord of Hell and the King of Demons, was not qualified. The human in front of him is the real demon in human skin. It's even more demonic than him. Seeing Mephisto silent, Kinlawo's smile on his face became a little better. Don't worry, hell is more lively now than you think. Wait until things here are over, and then you can go back and take a good look. Oh, by the way, I may get to hell one step ahead of you by then. Are you ready to welcome me? Kinlawo said, and the power of the soul-destroying hand burst out. The terrifying blood energy explosion directly cracked the surrounding space, and the residual power even affected the other two battlefields. The attacks of Silver Surfer and Destroyer had just been launched, but they were all held back. Dormammu, who was barely able to maintain himself, was now blown apart by the impact of the blood energy. He turned into a huge head again, but both the solidity of the body and the aura were much weaker than when he just appeared. Then Kinlawo's whole body shook. The whole person seemed to turn into a black hole, taking back all the scattered blood energy, turning into pure power, impacting his own tranquility. Everything on Kinlawo's side returned to calm, and Mephisto's body was still standing in the air, with red skin all over his body and grayish-white. There was no spirit in his eyes. There were hideous wounds all over his body, but there was no blood or anything like that. It looked like some kind of fake wax figure. The next second, Mephisto's body turned into flying ash, dissipated in the universe. But the soul still stood in the same place, and was bound by sword-shaped chains, unable to move at all. At this time, Mephisto's soul power was very weak, like a candle in the wind. It could go out at any time, but it just couldn't go out. Every time the power of the soul was about to collapse, the sword-shaped chain would flicker with a faint light, and Mephisto's soul would grow a little bit because of it. This ability is naturally not the power in the dungeon. It comes from the Sword Seal Soul Sealing Technique of Shushan, which is the power that the Shushan Sword Saint used to seal Linger. You know, even if Linger was willing to be sealed, she couldn't be controlled by just a few special demon-locking chains. After all, Linger's identity is there, so the Sword Saint set up the demon-locking chain and other powers to seal Linger on the surface. But in fact, it was this trick that sealed Linger. It cannot cause any harm to her soul, and can even maintain the immortality of the sealer's soul. But if there is any abnormal movement, there is no way. What Kinlawo wants is that Mephisto cannot die. After all, the father and son, old Carter and Johnny, are still fighting in hell. If Mephisto's will is allowed to return to hell, wouldn't that be a pitfall for them? It's already very difficult for them to deal with the 7 devils of hell. If half of Mephisto is added, then they will have to suffer a lot even if they don't die. In fact, Kinlawo's original plan was to give Mephisto's soul to Brash or Carlo to take care of it, and guarantee that he will not die. But on second thought, isn't that letting the hungry wolf look at the meat? It's impossible to be reliable at all. Even Brash and Carlo are subject to Kinlawo. But facing the temptation of Mephisto, they will surely not be obedient. Kinlawo will be fine at that time, but Johnny and old Carter will suffer. Asshole, kill me, kill me. The remnant soul of Mephisto desperately collided with the soul-sealing technique. He wanted his soul to dissipate and his will to return to hell. Now half of his soul in hell is still sleeping in the blood pool in hell. If he wants to revive, his will must return. Chapter 245. He could even feel that the other party didn't use his full strength at all. He was just playing with him and constantly consuming his vitality. Thinking of the high-spirited feeling when he united with Devourer of Planets and Dormammu, he felt that Ancient One and Kinlawo were 2 losers at that time, and he could control them in a minute. Although it was a pity that the Earth would be swallowed by Devourer of Planets, but at least he got rid of 2 thorns in his eyes, and everything was worth it. But who would have thought that it would become like this now? Suddenly Mephisto felt a little regretful. If he hadn't coveted that damn soul, he wouldn't have provoked an existence like Kinlawo. Be serious, okay? We are fighting. Kinlawo slashed out with a cross, and found that Mephisto's eyes flashed, so he immediately kindly reminded him. Damn it, Kinlawo. The severe pain in his chest brought Mephisto back to his senses. He looked at the cross scar on his chest, and Kinlawo's kind reminder made him almost lose his mind. But he still gritted his teeth and fought back. The surrounding hellfire surged out. In an instant, a sea of fire was formed and enveloped Kinlawo. However, Kinlawo did not take these hellfires seriously at all. The fluctuating power around him turned into fluctuating ice, suppressing the hellfire. His palm suddenly swept over the ancient dagger, and directly smashed it with a mountain-breaking and earth-shattering slash. Having seen the horror of Kinlawo's move, how could Mephisto fight head-on? The wings behind him flapped, and he wanted to run away. How could Kinlawo let him do what he wanted? He raised his hand, and the power of the bloodthirsty demon-sealing slash was launched first, and the blood power directly enveloped Mephisto. A blood vortex was formed, forcibly pulling Mephisto, who was about to fly away, back. Boom. However, at this moment, the power of the mountain-breaking and earth-shattering slash broke out completely. Countless blood pillars gushed out and hit Mephisto, directly smashing his body into pieces. The flesh and blood flew apart, and it seemed that he had died. Chapter 230. Interrupting the violent species, suffering from torture. The flesh and blood in the sky were absorbed by the blood vortex of soul-devouring demon-sealing slash. All of them turned into pure blood and merged into Kinlawo's body. At the same time, soul-devouring demon-sealing slash also reached its limit. Cut. At this moment, Kinlawo turned his head suddenly and slashed directly into the void with a sword. The violent blood power formed an extremely terrifying sword light in the blink of an eye. Ah! A shrill scream came from the void. Then Mephisto flew out of the void covered in blood. One of the bat wings behind him was missing, and there was a deep scar on his back that could be seen to the bone. Kinlawo's figure flashed and appeared behind Mephisto, reaching out to take out the broken bat wing from the void. With the surge of blood, the bat wing instantly became shriveled. Almost in the blink of an eye, it turned into a ball of flying ash and dissipated in Kinlawo's hand. The full blood and energy not only made Kinlawo's strength of the Berserker series begin to increase slowly, it also made him fall into a kind of frenzy state of the Hellblood demon god. The whole person became excited. If Kinlawo had not awakened, he would probably be in the Berserker's violent state now. But of course he is not now. The memory of blood can not only enhance one's own strength, but also allow the Berserker to stick to his original intention, not to be lost in the power of blood and energy. Kinlawo looked at Mephisto, and the red light of blood and energy flashed in his eyes. Fight well. Why play the gecko tail breaking game, and play it so badly? Do you really think I'm a fool? Kinluo's mocking voice pierced directly into Mephisto's heart like a sharp knife. Mephisto was so angry that he almost grinded his fangs flat. His eyes were full of fierce light. Now he has only one idea in his mind: to tear the human in front of him to pieces, even if it costs some unacceptable price. The blood on his palm stabbed towards his heart suddenly. Of course, it didn't penetrate. Instead, a strange pattern was carved on the heart. However, just when the pattern was halfway carved, Kinluo instantly appeared in front of Mephisto and firmly grasped his arm that was carving the heart. Although he didn't know what Mephisto was doing specifically, under the gaze of his mind's eye, Kinluo could sense that as the strange pattern was carved, the blood and energy around this guy began to be consumed at a terrifying speed, gathering towards the heart. Haven't you seen pigs run before you've eaten pork? There are countless secret methods of burning life among the protagonists of the novels in the original world. There are more and more ways to commit suicide. Obviously, Mephisto is probably using some kind of sacrifice or burning life secret method. Can Kinluo let him complete it? It's not that he is afraid that he will become so strong. At most, he will be at the level of the 5 great gods. Kinluo is not afraid at all. But Mephisto's blood and energy have been regarded as a dish and a thing in the palm of his hand by Kinluo. How could he watch Mephisto waste his blood and energy? Waste is a shameful behavior. With a sudden force of his arm, Mephisto's palm was pulled out from his heart. Blood mist splashed all over. Under the influence of the bloodthirsty and other berserker skills, Mephisto's bleeding volume was more than 10 times greater than usual. Play is play. Joke is joke. Don't joke with my vitality. Kinluo patted the gap in Mephisto's heart. In an instant, the blood and energy that had just gathered were directly drawn out of Mephisto's body. From the beginning, Mephisto had been plundered of a lot of blood and energy by Kinluo. Now the blood and energy that was ready for sacrifice was plundered again. Suddenly, an unprecedented sense of weakness surged into Mephisto's heart. The red skin around his body began to dim at a speed visible to the naked eye. The originally vigorous figure also became shriveled. Odin, who was carefully controlling the destroyer to fight the Silver Surfer, saw the scene on Kinluo's side. He couldn't help but feel a chill in his spine, and a trace of cold sweat flowed faintly on his forehead. Both Mephisto and Dormammu were too miserable. It is hard to imagine that a strong man of the same level as himself would be abused like this, especially Mephisto. It is more than miserable to describe it. Killing people is not enough. This is really a bit too torturous. Odin couldn't help but secretly rejoice in his heart at this time. Fortunately he and Kinluo can be regarded as being on the same front. If it were an opponent, Odin could hardly imagine how his Asgard would be harmed by Kinluo and his 2 poor sons. Not to mention a complete corpse. I'm afraid there won't even be a soul left. Puff ha 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 ha. Suddenly Mephisto laughed wildly. He covered his forehead, and the red and black nails on his skinny palms looked particularly hideous and terrifying, as if he was sick. Kinluo saw Mephisto like this, and couldn't help rolling his eyes. I really don't know what's so funny about this guy. Chapter 246. Dormammu wanted to use this little dark power to intimidate them, but he was really blind. Seeing this, Dormammu knew that his idea was wrong, so he gritted his teeth and pounced on Kazan and Brashu. If he didn't take action now, he was really afraid that he would not have the courage to take action in a while. The 2 sides fought together. It must be said that Dormammu, who was supported by the power of the Dark Dimension, was really resistant to absorption. No matter how much dark power Kazan and Brashu absorbed, Dormammu could replenish it in the first time. For a time, they were in a stalemate. The rest of the ghosts and gods almost occupied more than 10 dark mirrors. As long as a dark creature came out, they would devour it in the first time. Although it was not as much as Brashu and Kazan directly absorbed from the main body, but it was better in Bashi. It was so cool. Dark energy sucking fun. Kinluo, who was constantly absorbing the blood of Metaphys, saw such a scene and felt speechless. What are these ghosts and gods doing? They are not active in eating. Isn't that a problem with their thinking? In his heart, he secretly decided to add fuel to the fire of the ghosts and gods and speed them up. Kinluo returned a blood blade to force Mephisto back. Then the ghost's hand was raised, and the rich ghost energy burst out from the unique mark of the ghosts and gods. It turned into various colors of light and merged into the ghosts and gods. In an instant, the 7 ghosts and gods were stagnant, and then the breath around them suddenly soared. At the same time, the greed for the dark power in his eyes became more intense. Just now, Kinluo not only gave them ghost energy, but also deprived them of the dark power they had just swallowed. That's why the ghosts and gods reacted like this. Just kidding, ghost energy can be given for free. Kinluo didn't want to suffer from these ghosts and gods. Under Kinluo's stimulation, the speed at which the ghosts and gods devoured the dark power suddenly soared. Carlo and Luosha even grabbed the dark mirror directly, and without waiting for the dark creatures to appear, they swallowed the dark mirror into their stomachs like chewing biscuits. Seeing this, the rest of the ghosts and gods followed suit and began to devour the dark power crazily. For a moment, the scene was really beautiful, and Dormammu's face was about to turn green when he saw this scene. Chapter 229 Double Suppression. At the beginning, Dormammu didn't feel anything. His mental attention was always on the battle with the ghosts and phantoms. It didn't matter if the dark energy was sucked. Anyway, he was the master of the dark dimension. He lacked everything except dark energy. But as the ghosts and gods swallowed the dark energy, Dormammu found something wrong. These guys were too good at eating. If it was just one person who could eat, it would be fine. But these 7 terrifying projections, they were really good at eating. It hasn't been long, and they have eaten up the dark energy he has collected for nearly decades. If this continues, he will be swallowed alive. Dormammu couldn't help feeling a little panic for a while. The key is that he couldn't think of a way to break the situation. Most of his dark energy was swallowed up before it could have an effect, even if 1 or 2 attacks were successfully landed. But for these beings, it was still painless and had extremely limited effect. Assholes, shut up, Dormammu roared, and a dark purple light emanated from his eyes. Ripples formed in the universe and attacked Brash and Kazan. This is exactly the power that Guyi reminded Kinluo before, the power soul magic that Dormammu is best at. If it is a normal existence, even if it is stronger than Dormammu, the soul will be impacted by this magic, cause almost indelible damage to its soul. What's more, it may directly become Dormammu's puppet. Even Guyi will be very careful when facing Dormammu's soul magic, for fear of being affected by its power. However, this time Dormammu is destined to fail, because he is facing ghosts and gods. I saw that the dark purple light wave passed through the bodies of Kazan and Brash and dissipated in the universe. At this time, the 2 ghosts and gods showed a unified look of disdain in their eyes, as if to say, that's it. It must be said that Dormammu's best soul magic, in front of the ghosts and gods, it is like a joke. It's completely playing with a big knife in front of Guangong. Dormammu was in a bad state. The mocking and disdainful eyes of the ghosts and gods made him feel cold from the bottom of his heart. But Dormammu was still unwilling. The power gathered again, and then a skull with a dark purple light appeared. It seemed to be condensed by purple crystal. However, this was completely transformed by the power of soul magic. You still don't die this time? Dormammu roared as if to give himself courage. At the same time, he pushed the crystal skull towards Brash and Kazan. Almost in an instant, Brash and Kazan attacked at the same time, each holding the crystal skull in his hand. The 2 looked at each other with fierce light in their eyes, as if threatening each other to let go. It's a pity that neither of them was destined to compromise with the other. As the power of the 2 increased, the crystal skull collapsed instantly. It turned into countless fragments floating in the air. At the same time, Carlo and Luosha rushed over. They had swallowed up those dark mirrors cleanly. Now that they saw that there was an advantage to be taken, how could they not be active, one on the left and one on the right? They pounced on the broken soul magic. Almost in the blink of an eye, the 2 ghosts devoured the crystal fragments completely. Then the 2 ghosts showed a look of disgust. In addition to soul power and dark power, the power of soul magic naturally has a unique magical energy. But from the performance of Carlo and Luosha, this magical power is not liked by them. It feels like eating chocolate and finding that the filling is a little bitch. But since they have eaten it, what else can they do? Carlo and Luosha ignored the murderous look of Kazan and Brashu and pounced on Dormammu. Kazan and Brashu were already angry because their food was snatched away. Now seeing that the two guys dared to ignore them, they were directly furious. Almost instantly, they surpassed Luasha and Carlo and squeezed them aside. Seeing this scene, Dormammu took 2 steps back in fear. He had not had the desire to urinate for many years, and at this time he inexplicably felt the urge to urinate. But the ghosts didn't care how he felt at this time. Like a vicious dog pouncing on its prey, it began to devour the endless dark energy on his body. Mephisto, who was being dealt with by Kinluo, felt Dormammu's current state. He couldn't help but feel cold in his heart. He also felt a sense of grief for the dead and a sense of loss for the teeth. If Dormammu died or ran away, he would be finished. He didn't even dare to think about how terrifying the scene would be when those 7 terrifying beings came to him. Now, just facing Kinluo made him feel extremely powerless. Chapter 247, Who let the other party's strength be there? Kinluo really has no way to deal with it now. And Kinluo's threat directly poked Odin's lungs. Loki and Thor are both on Earth. That is their territory. When the time comes, those 2 useless guys will be squeezed and flattened by others. If it is the former, it is easy to say. If it is the latter, it will be troublesome. After all, he is his own son. Humphrey. After Odin snorted coldly to express his dissatisfaction, he directly manipulated the destroyer to rush towards the Silver Surfer. He was repelled twice in a row. The Silver Surfer also knew that if he did not defeat the destroyer, he would not be able to complete the Master's task. So simply, the Silver Surfer opened fire at full power, raised the cosmic surfboard, and the cosmic energy beam gushed out. Seeing this, Odin also activated the destroyer to use the high-temperature beam again. Boom! The 2 beams collided in midair and suddenly burst out with extremely powerful power. Kinluo saw this without any worry. These 2 guys with infinite energy can play slowly. It is estimated that the matter is over, but they have not finished fighting yet. And the Silver Surfer is standing on the left, which is destined to fail in the fight. It's our turn now. Are you going to come together, or should I come one by one? Kinluo's ancient dagger exudes a sharp breath. Looking at Dormammu and Mephisto, his face is full of kind smiles. Kinluo, you are looking for death, Mephisto shouted angrily, and the power around him soared wildly, especially in terms of blood and energy, which directly rose to level. Regardless of whether he can beat it now, at least the momentum cannot be lost. Dormammu sneered, and the dark power around him gradually condensed, forming something similar to a mirror. Then one by one, dark creatures emerged from the mirror. They all looked extremely hateful, and the dark aura on their bodies was also very condensed. Obviously, they were powerful. But Kinluo was not afraid when he saw such a scene. Instead, he swallowed his saliva involuntarily. Isn't the feast coming? Ganata, who was hiding in the dark, felt surprisingly the same as Kinluo at this moment. It was just that Kinluo was destined to eat, and she could only watch. Good people, you are all good people, I thank you. In this case, I will not be polite. Guys, let's prepare to eat, Kinluo said, and a terrifying breath emanated from his scarlet ghost hand. The runes of ghosts and gods lit up one after another. Chapter 228 Ghosts and gods came out together, and the light of the ghost and god marks became more and more dazzling. At the same time, a terrifying breath emanated from the whole venue. Dormammu and Mephisto's faces changed immediately. These breaths were too terrible. Even they couldn't tell the depth. The only word that emerged in their minds was terrible. Especially Mephisto. He was not unfamiliar with these breaths. The accumulated sinful souls had not been taken away for enjoyment. As a result, they were swallowed by these terrifying existences. In fact, he had known that old Carter was going to make trouble, so he was ready and waiting for his son Wu Zinmo and Ghost Rider to make trouble. He went to extract the sinful souls. Not all of them, but only a few thousand sinful souls for the witch demon to play with. Mephisto was looking forward to what it would be like when old Carter saw the contract he had been desperately protecting, with only these few thousand souls left. I'm afraid he would be angry to death on the spot, but Mephisto never expected it. Kinluo would directly overtake. Before he even took action himself, he directly devoured all the sinful souls he had accumulated. Damn it, Dormammu, Be careful. These terrible guys can devour souls and dark forces. Mephisto bit his back teeth and said the lesson of blood and tears in this sentence. Dormammu didn't expect Mephisto to be so kind, but he didn't say much, just nodded, and looked solemnly at the terrible phantoms that appeared behind Kinluo one by one. Kazan of the Sword Soul, Kja of the Afterimage, Primin of the Corrosion, Saya of the Frost, Rakshasa of the Plague, Galo of the Underworld Flame, Braxo of the Evil God. The 7 ghosts and gods appeared behind Kinluo one by one. The powerful aura directly frightened the dark creatures around them, who were staring at them, and they could not move. Kinluo looked at the ghosts and gods, and couldn't help but secretly marvel in his heart. These phantoms are much more solid than when they devoured the sinful souls. They are almost in a semi-solid state. The aura is also very powerful, and the eyes are also quite smart. It is estimated that with the growth of his strength, it is not a dream for the ghosts and gods to appear in this world. Damn it, this guy really hid his strength at the beginning. How strong are you? I want to take a good look today. Seeing that all of the ghosts and gods released their terrifying auras, Mephisto seemed to be stimulated by something, and his hair exploded immediately. With the wings behind him flapping, he rushed to Kinluo in an instant. Seeing this, the ghosts and gods around him suddenly showed greedy looks in their eyes. You must know that although Mephisto's body is extremely dignified and full of blood and chi, but the power of hell is also not less. After all, he is the Lord of Hell. And the power of hell also contains a lot of dark power. Even if it is not as pure as Dormammu, it is definitely on the menu of the ghosts and gods. Seeing this, Dormammu also forcibly enslaved those dark creatures and rushed towards Kinluo. Listen to me, 7 of you. This demon is mine. The guy who gave it to the dark is yours. You can do whatever you want. If anyone dares to take the food, don't blame me for being rude. I won't give you a hair in the future. Kinluo saw the ghosts and gods showing such an expression, and immediately warned them. At the same time, he waved his sword to block Mephisto's angry attack. The 7 ghosts and gods had different expressions when they heard it. There were disdain, dissatisfaction, and some indignation. But the most real ones were Brash and Carlo. They both shuddered almost at the same time. Obviously, Kinluo's methods have left them with psychological shadows. Fortunately, the ghosts and gods are still obedient. They scattered and grabbed the dark creatures and stuffed them into their mouths. Brash and Kazan almost set their eyes on Dormammu at the same time. Those dark creatures are just appetizers. This is the main meal. Dormammu was stared at by the ghosts. He suddenly felt uncomfortable, as if he was a lamb being stared at by a hungry wolf. That feeling made him very unhappy. Asshole! Dormammu roared, and the dark aura around him surged. Then the huge face began to grow, almost in the blink of an eye. A huge dark giant appeared in front of Kazan and Brash. It was no smaller than the previous devourer of planets. However, when Brash and Kazan saw such a scene, their eyes were still greedy, and there was no other emotion. It was like a joke. These two were extremely powerful ghosts. What kind of existence had they not seen? Chapter 248. They squirmed and condensed together. For a moment, the two sides were in a strange stalemate. Stealing the power of the dark dimension in this situation, Dormammu must be angry to death, right? The voice of the devourer of planets sounded behind the Ancient One with a hint of gloating. At the same time, the Ancient One felt a strong wind coming. However, facing such a scene, the Ancient One seemed to have been prepared for it. The Ancient One trembled all over. The flesh was still maintaining the secret magic quick to block the countless cosmic energy bombs. The soul was separated from the body at this moment. With both hands, a huge black and red magic circle appeared in front of him. Bang! A deafening sound rang out. The magic circle shattered instantly, but it also blocked the fatal punch of the Devourer of Planets. Dual casting of soul and body. The Devourer of Planets' eyes flashed slightly, and then his arm exerted force again. Boom! The magic circle exploded, and countless fragments passed through the Ancient One's soul. Finally, it dissipated in space. Such an attack is not very harmful, but it is extremely insulting. But Ancient One didn't care. She saw her body and soul synchronized, and she kept making complicated hand seals. Suddenly, A huge magic circle that almost covered half of the space appeared at the feet of the Devourer of Planets, to be precise, too, because there was another one in the sky. As the magic circle rose and fell, the Devourer of Planets was like a meat bun, sandwiched between the two magic circles. Break. Seeing this, the Devourer of Planets roared, and the cosmic energy burst above his head and under his feet. The violent cosmic energy almost shattered the two huge magic circles in the blink of an eye. However, at this moment, a black arrow flew out of the magic circle. It went straight to the center of the Devourer of Planets' eyebrows. The black arrow was extremely fast and silent. However, when it was close to the Devourer of Planets, he was still aware of it. The Devourer of Planets stretched out his hand and accurately grabbed the black arrow in his hand. The power of the Dark Elves? Before the Devourer of Planets could finish his questioning voice, then he felt a trance, and then the arrow disappeared in his hand. Galactus tilted his head subconsciously, and suddenly felt a stinging sensation on his cheek. With a light touch, he saw 7 colors of liquid cosmic energy suspended on his fingers. Chapter 227 Impotent and Furious Dormammu, Ready to Eat Walter, MD. Fuck. Damn Ancient One, I won't let you go. How dare you, damn bastard. Just when Kinlowo's finger pointing at the Silver Surfer just fell, Dormammu suddenly exploded as if he had a seizure. He cursed Ancient One in all kinds of ways, and the curse was so ugly, it was simply unbearable to watch, and it was very unskilled. It was really not the same as the beautiful Dragon Country language. Kinlowo was a little puzzled. What happened to Dormammu suddenly? In fact, it was not just Kinlowo. Mephisto, the Destroyer, Odin, the Silver Surfer, and the melon-eating Ganada. They were all very surprised. The war was about to start. Why did he suddenly start cursing? Could it be to boost morale? But soon Kinlowo realized something. Since Kinlowo is now in full firepower, so the sensitivity to the surrounding breath is much stronger than before. Kinlowo keenly discovered that the breath around Dormammu was a little weaker, thinking of Dormammu scolding the Ancient One at this time. And now the Ancient One is fighting with the Devourer of Planets. The power consumed is probably not small, so when the power is insufficient, what is the mystical power or the dark power when absorbing power? It is estimated that the Ancient One is madly absorbing the power of the Dark Dimension now. My goodness, the Ancient One is the Ancient One after all. No wonder Dormammu broke the defense so much. It's really too damn bullying. What's the difference between this and plain cow thief in front of you? The kind that doesn't even turn off the lights. Puff. Kinlowo thought about it and found it more and more funny, and finally couldn't help laughing out loud. Normally, Kinlowo's endurance is absolutely okay, unless he can't help it. Seeing Kinlowo smile like this, Odin, who was playing with robots in Asgard, was stunned for a moment, and then he immediately reacted. Ha ha ha. Dormammu, are you the master of the Dark Dimension or the Ancient One? I think you should just give the Dark Dimension to the Ancient One, so that she doesn't have to take it bit by bit. How troublesome. Odin laughed undisguisedly from the Destroyer. Now everyone laughed, except the Silver Surfer. After all, he doesn't have any emotions at all now. Odin, you are looking for death. Dormammu was immediately angry. Before Mephisto beside him could laugh at him, he made a move directly. A giant hand composed of dark power fell from the sky and covered the Destroyer directly. The Destroyer was well prepared, and a burst of orange-red light flashed all over his body. The high-temperature beam was about to be launched, but at this moment, Kinlowo swung the ancient short sword, and saw an X-sword energy that was no less than the giant hand soaring into the sky, rushing before the Destroyer, directly breaking the giant hand into 2 sections, and countless dark forces dissipated. It was one of the skills of the Azura series, Coulson's Nightmare, Azura Evil Eye / Find out who your opponent is. Dormammu, we haven't had a good time yet, so you can't change people. Kinlowo looked at Dormammu, and a dark purple light flashed in his eyes. In the previous attack, he absorbed a lot of dark energy silently. I have to say, the taste is very good. It feels a bit like chocolate ice cream. Boom. At the same time, the Destroyer once again erupted a high-temperature beam, repelling the Silver Surfer who wanted to attack close to the front. Actually, I can deal with Dormammu. Odin's slightly serious tone came from the destroyer. Get lost. Don't even think about it. I said Dormammu and Mephisto are mine. Go and fight the Silver Surfer quickly. If you dare to meddle again, I will definitely treat your son well. Kinlawo heard the words like a cat with its fur standing up, and threatened directly. Even though Odin has lived for many years, his chi cultivation skills have reached the pinnacle, at least on the surface. But at this time, he was still a little broken by Kinlawo's words. The king of Asgard, the father of the gods. He is so shameless. The earth is his territory in name only. Kinlawo is still his people. Even though he was very unhappy in his heart, Odin still had no way to deal with Kinlawo. Chapter 249. The power in his body was running secretly, preparing to summon ghosts and gods directly to give Dormammu a big surprise. However, at this moment, a silver light and shadow fell from the sky, and at the same time a beam of light emitting scorching heat gushed out, rushing straight towards the Silver Surfer. Boom! The high-temperature beam exploded, and the terrifying energy made the surrounding space tremble. Dormammu and Mephisto stopped immediately when they saw this. There was a bit of uncertainty on their faces. This is the power of the god King Odin. The name of a man is the shadow of a tree. They are still quite afraid of this god King Odin. Kinlawo couldn't help but twitch his mouth when he saw what appeared in front of him. Damn, it turned out to be the Destroyer. However, the Destroyer at this time is much stronger than the one who appeared on the earth. The whole body exudes a terrifying aura, but the height is limited, almost the same as that of an ordinary person. It seems that the one who came this time is the real Destroyer. Kinlawo felt inexplicably unhappy when he saw this. He and Gui are both fighting against powerful enemies here. Old Yonkoin Odin actually sent a Destroyer? Although the power of this Destroyer is very good, it is only a little weaker than Dormammu and Mephisto. But isn't this too contemptuous? Odin, you have such a great official power, such a big scene. You just sent such a broken copper and iron? Kinlawo looked at the Destroyer and expressed his dissatisfaction in his words. Sorry, brother Kinlawo, my body is now decayed and can't support the battle, so I can only send the Destroyer to replace me. Seeing Kinlawo's power, Odin's tone was full of politeness at this time, and at the same time he showed his helplessness. Kinlawo couldn't help rolling his eyes when he heard it. Good guy, this guy is really shameless. Kinlawo believes that his body is decayed, but it's really a lie to say that he has no ability to fight. Mephisto doesn't believe it, but since they said so, Kinlawo has no choice. I can't go to Asgard to pull this old Yonkoin out, and there is no time. It doesn't matter. Anyway, Odin is just a bonus. Just hold the Silver Surfer back. Let the Destroyer fight the Silver Surfer. One is an Asgardian with indestructible power, and the other has nearly endless cosmic energy, which is the right way. Okay, stop talking nonsense. We'll settle this account later. Now you can deal with the Silver Surfer first. Kinlawo waved his hand impatiently, pointing at the Silver Surfer who rushed out of the fire and said, Chapter 226 Special Mirror Space. Battle of the Strong in the Special Mirror Space. Ancient One stood opposite Galactus. I don't know what's going on in this space. Galactus's body has shrunk severely. Although it is still very strong, it is almost the level of the Hulk. It can't be compared with the previous giant appearance, but the sense of oppression on his body is stronger than before. Ancient One couldn't help but feel a little surprised when he saw Galactus in such a state. His expression became extremely solemn, and a row of secret magic arrays appeared on his hands. At a glance, there were as many as hundreds. However, the Devourer of Planets did not take another look. Instead, he looked at the countless mirrors around him. Mirror space magic also uses the power of cosmic energy. I have to say that you have a lot of ideas. If that's the case, maybe you can really trap me temporarily, the Devourer of Planets said, covering the mirror space with his palm. Crack, crack. Fine cracking sounds continued to ring. Any space has its upper limit. How long do you think I can be trapped here? Bang! As the Devourer of Planets finished speaking, the space in front of his palm directly shattered, revealing an endless starry sky. How long it can be trapped? That's how long it will last. Kinlawo will defeat Dormammu and Mephisto during this time. Ancient One shook his wrist lightly, and a magic circle suddenly turned into a stream of light and flew out. covering the gap where the devourer of planets collapsed. Immediately, the gap was restored to its original state, tightly fitting without any deviation. "Oh, Kinluo, is it that human?" The devourer of planets looked at Ancient One with some surprise and asked, "Are you so confident in him? After all, no matter how strong he is just a human being." "Let's not talk about that rubbish, Mephisto. Dormammu always keeps the dark dimension with him. You don't know how difficult it is to deal with a guy like this, do you?" When Ancient One heard this, the terrifying figures that Kinluo summoned when he devoured the sinful undead instantly appeared in his mind. The dark dimension is indeed difficult, but it's nothing for Kinluo. He is destined to be the nemesis of Dormammu and Mephisto. Ancient One said with certainty. "Haha, is that so? That's really interesting." A gleam of light flashed in the eyes of the Devourer of Planets. Compared with Ancient One, the Devourer of Planets is obviously more interested in Kinluo. He forgot how many years he hadn't seen such a human with unlimited potential. If the other party can really grow to the level of killing gods, then many things will become easy to solve. "Well, let me see if that human can really deal with those two insidious trash as you said. I'll play with you now, but don't die, Ancient One, otherwise, I won't see what I want to see, but I will be very disappointed." After the voice of the Devourer of Planets fell, the breadth around him suddenly surged. Although he is still not full now, he is in a half-full state, and can almost exert nearly 70% of his own strength. The expression of the Ancient One changed again, and hundreds of magic circles flew out with a wave of his hand. All fell into the surrounding mirror space. "There is no way. The power erupted by the Devourer of Planets is too strong. If it is not reinforced, this space will probably collapse as soon as it moves." However, just when the Ancient One had just stabilized the space, the Devourer of Planets waved his hand. Countless cosmic energy bombs appeared in the air. Most of these energy bombs are only the size of basketballs. But the number is extremely amazing, almost fill up the entire mirror space. The next moment countless energy bombs flew towards the Ancient One. If Kinluo saw this scene, he would probably immediately think of the founder of the Prince's tactics. "Vegeta, this is too much like a free gift." Seeing this, Gui's hands flashed. Countless long whips emerged and blocked the cosmic energy bombs. Boom, boom, boom. For a while, dense roars continued to sound. At the same time, the dark mark between Gui's eyebrows emitted a faint dark light. Then a few black threads flashed in Gui's eyes. The power around him increased by at least 20% at this moment. At the same time, those secret magic whips also showed some changes, from orange to black and red, exuding a strange breath. The broken magic whips seemed to come alive. Chapter 250 Dormammu, the old enemy of the Ancient One, could not help but let out a low cry when he saw this. Even he had never seen the Ancient One use such power. Dormammu suddenly felt that he was looked down upon, and this feeling made him feel very unhappy. Mephisto saw Dormammu like this, and a mocking look suddenly appeared on his face. "It seems that you are not worthy of the Ancient One to use such a move against you." Humphrey, what qualifications does a guy who is sealed by the Ancient One have to speak here? "At least she failed to seal my dark dimension." Dormammu snorted and gathered decisively, poking Mephisto's lung tube again, making him shut up. However, the anger in his heart was constantly burning. A cold light flashed in Mephisto's eyes, and then his palms closed, and a trace of imperceptible black air appeared on his fingertips. "Go to hell, Ancient One," Mephisto roared in his heart. A black light flew out from his fingertips, and attacked the Ancient One who was performing the secret magic very covertly. Ganata, who was hiding in the dark, saw all this clearly. "I couldn't help but feel anxious in my heart. If something went wrong with Ancient One, the Earth would be really finished with that cosmic energy bomb." Just when Ganata couldn't control himself and wanted to attack, Kinluo's figure flashed and appeared in front of the black light. The ancient short sword in his hand stood upright, accurately blocking the fatal black light. Duang, the sound of metal clashing rang out, and the black light dissipated in front of Kinluo. At the same time, Kinluo made a sword finger and pointed at another void. The 10,000 swords technique in the Shushan secret art was activated. Countless long swords with white light fell from the sky, stabbing an invisible tentacle monster to death in midair. Those tentacle monsters will only reveal their figures when they die. That look is really as chilling as it can be. You two really don't have martial ethics. So shameless. You need to cooperate with sneak attacks? Kinlawo looked at Dormammu and Mephisto, and said sarcastically in a cold tone. Although Kinlawo was mainly concerned about the situation on the Ancient One's side, but how could he not pay attention to Mephisto and Dormammu, two famous old yin coins? The mind's eyes were always observing everything around him. Almost at the moment when Mephisto's black light was launched, Dormammu also summoned thousands of invisible dark creatures from the dark dimension. It must be said that their attacks were very concealed. Even Ganata, who was hiding in the dark, only noticed Mephisto, but these so-called hidden attacks were completely invisible in front of the mind's eyes. Kinlawo saw it clearly. Dormammu and Mephisto looked at each other, without any shame on their faces, but only surprise. They themselves did not expect that they would be so tacit. At this critical moment, they would attack the Ancient One at the same time. Chapter 225 Space Power. True Destroyer. Dormammu and Mephisto looked at each other with disgust. This feeling of tacit understanding made them very uncomfortable. There was even a feeling of vomiting. Asshole, who told you to learn from me? Dormammu took the lead and looked at Mephisto with a cold look, his eyes full of ill will. However, Mephisto did not indulge him. He glared back. Look at the time when that human attacked. It was obviously me who attacked first. I haven't asked you why you learned from me yet, but you are the villain who complained first. Humphrey. Villain? Are you praising me? Dormammu snorted coldly, his expression full of playfulness. Kinlawo couldn't help but feel speechless when he saw this. He suddenly felt that the two old yin coins who had lived for countless years in front of him were like stupid. However, at this moment, there was a violent energy fluctuation on the side of the Ancient One. The Devourer of Planets smashed the cosmic energy ball in his hand towards the Ancient One. He now realized that something was wrong. Although the energy had not yet gathered perfectly, the Devourer of Planets believed that even a cosmic energy bomb with 80% of its power was not something that the Ancient One, a mortal body, could withstand. However, the facts proved that the Ancient One really withstood it. To be precise, it was not Ancient One who endured it. It was the dazzling mystical rune. As the rune continued to flash, the huge cosmic energy bomb was swallowed up bit by bit. It is not accurate to describe it as swallowed. It should be said that it disappeared into another space. It seemed to be stimulated by energy. The mystical rune began to shrink rapidly. In the blink of an eye, it swallowed up the cosmic energy bomb. Then it spread towards the Devourer of Planets. Seeing this, the Devourer of Planets did not show any panic on his face. Instead, he showed a look of amazement. You have used the power of space to such an extent, Ancient One. You are the strongest person I have ever seen besides the gods, but this is the end. As he said this, the Devourer of Planets pointed his finger at the void. Invisible ripples spread out, and suddenly the rune emitting dazzling light began to dim at a speed visible to the naked eye, and quickly dissipated in the universe. However, at this moment, a huge cosmic energy bomb appeared out of thin air and hit the Devourer of Planets. Kinlawo couldn't help but secretly shout good when he saw this. Treat him the same way. Return it to the other body! However, when Kinlawo saw the disdain in the eyes of the Devourer of Planets, he felt an ominous feeling in his heart. Then he quickly reacted. The Devourer of Planets itself is a collection of cosmic energy. It is not an exaggeration to say that he is the king of cosmic energy. The cosmic energy against him is like a meat bun hitting a dog. Seeing this, Ganata was also anxious and stamped his feet. He finally consumed part of his father's power. As a result, all of it is returned now. It's a big loss. Ridiculous. The Devourer of Planets sneered and stretched out his hand to press on the huge cosmic energy bomb. In an instant, countless cosmic energy storms appeared, and the energy bomb shrank at a speed visible to the naked eye, and all merged into the body of the Devourer of Planets. However, at this moment, the Ancient One moved. She had expected everything long ago, and she was waiting for a moment. As the Ancient One's fingers changed, his hands slammed into the void under his feet. Countless clones also made the same move at this moment. In an instant, Countless huge magic circles surrounded the devourer of planets and the Ancient One. The runes that had almost faded and dissipated returned to their original state, and exuded a stronger power than before. And in this power, one could vaguely sense that there was a faint cosmic energy mixed in it. Kinluo, the rest is up to you and Doden, the guy hiding in the dark. Ancient One smiled at Kinluo. Then the light around became more dazzling. The figures of her and Galactus began to become illusory. Silver Shadow, kill that human. Galactus' slightly angry voice sounded. Then the two disappeared in his space. The Silver Surfer, who was still standing still, heard the words of Galactus. He suddenly raised his head, his figure turned into a silver light, and rushed towards Kinluo. Metaphys sneered at the sight. He and Dormammu started almost at the same time, ready for a three-hero battle against Lu Bu. Kinluo was not panicked at all. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.